Yep.
I'd like to welcome everyone out today to the January 31st, 2013 Transportation Licensing Commission meeting. It's our first meeting of the year. Before we get started, we would like to welcome a new commissioner on. We have Mr. Pat McNally. He will be joining us. We're sorry for this trial by fire that we're going to douse you in today, but you're doing a good public service, and we really appreciate you joining the commission.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'd like to start off every meeting with the saying of the pledge. If everyone could rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As always, we like to read the Notice of Appeals Rights to the Commission's decisions. Pursuant to the provisions of Section 2.68030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, notice is hereby given that if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of entry of the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Commissioners, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting? If so, I will entertain any motions or review of the minutes to make any changes as needed.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. We have I guess technically I am still the vice chair. We have never actually made anything official at all, and we have a vice chair to appoint. So we are open to any nominations as commissioners to the Transportation Licensing Commission chair.
I move Brian Winfrey as chair.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yay. Next, we would like to take the position of vice chair. Do we have a motion for the vice chair?
I move Sal Hernandez as vice chair.
We have Sal Hernandez moved as vice chair. Do we have a second?
A second.
Motion on the floor and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? You have. Congratulations. All right. Also in the minutes, we have the Transportation Licensing Commission's meeting schedule. I don't know if the public, does everyone have that, or is this available?
We've posted up on the website.
Posted up on the website, so.
There are a couple of changes in terms of normal days, just because of the way calendars would fall, or, so basically we're trying to avoid holidays and that sort of thing.
Okay, commissioners, have you had the opportunity to review?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we technically don't even have to make a motion on that, do we?
I think you'll just accept it as that.
Okay. We'll accept the minutes, the meeting schedule for 2013 of the Transportation Licensing Commission. I'd like to ask if we could all turn our cell phones off. Today we're going to have quite a busy agenda, so we want to make sure that we're moving through, and so people are completely respected. So if everyone could turn their cell phones to silent or vibrate, we really appreciate that. The first item on the agenda that will require a lot of involvement is the public hearing, the certificate of convenience and necessity for taxi cabs and additional taxi cab permits. And I understand that we have several representatives from the city council that would like to speak on behalf of people that I'd like to address and acknowledge first and give them the opportunity to speak.
And there may be some other elected officials.
And other elected officials as well. Thank you, Billy. First come, first serve.
Thank you. My name is Chris Harmon. I'm the council member for District 26 in Southeast Nashville. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, Mr. Fields, for allowing us to speak today. First, I'd like to say that prior to my council service, I served on another board here in Metro, and I appreciate your sacrifice of time and appreciate your efforts in this volunteer position. I'm here today to speak on behalf of TinCab and their application, a driver-owned company. Several of the directors and the drivers are constituents of mine, and I've recently visited with them. I did support their application, I guess back in August, with a letter to the commission. You should have another letter before you today, but I decided I would appear in person just to let you know that I support their application. There are a couple of things that occur to me. Competition is good for a market. Drivers that are invested in the ownership of the company provide good customer service. They're incentivized to provide an even better level of customer service. And the third thought that I'll leave you with is that everyone deserves a shot at living out their dream. It's an entrepreneurial dream, and I think these fellows deserve a shot at that. So I hope you'll approve their application today, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Councilman.
Any other elected officials?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Harold Love. I'm the state representative from District 58. And Councilman echoed my sentiments exactly. I'm here in support of the TinCab company. I believe I sent a letter also in support. If not, you'll be having one from my office this afternoon. I'm going to leave some time for my colleague from District 53, Jason Powell, also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm State Representative Jason Powell from House District 53 here in Nashville. Wanted to come and speak to you on behalf of the permit application for TinCab. I've come to know many of the representatives of TinCab well and believe in them. Many of them are constituents of mine, and I think they should be given every opportunity and consideration. As Councilman Harmon, who I have the pleasure of saying is also my councilman, said, it's great we have a free market economy here in this country, and I hope that they will be considered. Many of them are new Americans who have come to this country in pursuit of the American dream, and I don't envy them as in their profession, but they are hardworking, and they're the frontline people in many cases for our tourists and other industries they are representing us here in Nashville, and they do it well. They show that the direction the city's headed in, city of openness and welcomeness, and I think we should reflect that in our approval of TinCab and let them have the permits as they're seeking. I would appreciate your consideration of this matter, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Representative Powell. Do we have any other elected officials that would like to speak on behalf?
Hello, I'm Devette Blaylock, District 27, and thank you again for your time volunteering. This is wonderful. There is a lot of good companies here today that would love to have some permits. I'm here. I've come to know the Quick Cab. They are an excellent. The owner is an exceptional businessman, and we need that. We need to show some established rapport in the business industry. I wish we could get everybody at least 20 permits. That would be a great quick fix to all of this. I think Green Cab is also an exceptional company as well. We want to be very, very modern here in Nashville. So I would really like for you to take a look at dispersing some new business cabs to this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other elected officials? Please step up. Don't be shy.
Afternoon, Commissioners. I appreciate you being here and the long volunteer hours that you do to make our city a great place. I want to talk to you. Yes, I'm Scott Davis, City Councilman for District 5, but I want to talk to you as a son of a cab driver and a grandson of a cab driver. My grandfather came from the Bahamas, had a thick accent, and drove a cab. He was an engineer, but at the time the Bahamas was under British rule, so it was hard for him to get his credits transferred. So he had to work hard. That's where he met my dad, who married my mother. And before my dad went on to Vietnam and to Harvard, he was a cab driver. So the cab business has put a lot of food on my table over the years. This is why I rise in support of Green Cab today. And more importantly, is we're trying to become the greenest city in the South. Green Cab, their fleet's going to be made up of hybrid cars and electric cars, which is a step in the right direction. And as a member of the Green Jobs Task Force here, and also as a board member of the Nashville Black Chamber of Commerce, I fully endorse them. And like everybody else, I wish we had enough permits to give everybody 25 to 30 permits today, because they're all good companies. And I applaud all of these small business owners for stepping forward, but I'm here today in support of Green Cab. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I yield the rest of my time to my good friend over here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for the work that you guys do every day for the city of Nashville. I come in support of Tennessee Cab this afternoon. When I was elected, and some of this came up last year about permits for taxi cab drivers and things like this, I was watching some of the different companies that came through and watching how they did business and things like that. And I really took an interest in Tennessee Cab. They're in my district. I'm Tony Tenpenny. I'm councilman in the 16th district. And also, just about Davidson County also. I've watched these guys over the year grow as a company. I've watched them form their board. I've watched just the hard work that they put in to come to this point, to come to ask you for the permits that they need to get their business going. I really would encourage you to get the permits to this company. Like I said, I've watched them grow over the year. I've watched them become a strong company with a strong base. I've looked at these guys' cabs, what they look like inside, the outside. They're very clean. They're a very, very upright company, and I would just ask for your approval for permits for this cab company. I'm also here to support Green Cab. What Councilman Scott Davis just said about the green energy, them wanting to go to the hybrid, possibly the Synergy cars, I think that's the way that the automobile industry is going at this time, and I think it just makes us a cleaner city, and I'll show my support behind them also. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, there's at least one more.
I'm assuming that it's my turn. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm Councilman Robert Duval, Council District 33. I'm here on behalf of Green Cab to speak for them. I've actually been to their facility. I've inspected their automobile that was retrofitted. I think they are excellent and will bring a lot of value, and they'll be running natural gas type vehicles, and I think that's exactly where we need to be going, not just from a standpoint of cabs, but maybe with all of our vehicles. So I would encourage this board to give as many of those permits as possible to Green Cab. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other elected officials that are present that would like to speak on behalf of any taxi cab companies?
I haven't seen any more elected officials, so I think that's it.
All right. At this time, we have, I guess you should gather up your representatives. Representatives from American Music City Taxi, Black Cab, Checker, Green Cab, Quick Cab, Taxi USA, 10 Cab, United, and Volunteer. In order to expedite this, we're going to try our best to give each company an opportunity to speak on their behalf, and we're going to allot you 5 minutes max in order to put forth your best position and to speak with the commissioners about how we should allocate the permits that we've decided and any other things that may concern you. First, we're going to take up American Music City. Can I have a representative from American Music City?
Set this up here, if you guys would like to look at that.
That is what we have purchased. We have purchased those units. Those are, I'm Johnny White, by the way, with Music City Taxi. Those are our tablets that we bought, and the brackets. We're still deciding on those brackets. We've only ordered one of those to decide whether we need locking brackets. It's, or those types of locking brackets. But that provides our GPS dispatching system, which is outlined in our packet. It also outlines our radio system, which provides push-to-talk ID, provides alert system for the cab driver, provides safety for our cab drivers, and it also lets us know which driver is at our board at our office. It will tell us which driver is in trouble, where his location is, and it will also show which what number and which driver is actually if it's a night driver, day driver, such. Also, this is, if I can pass that out. Just gonna get it. Thank you.
It's all right. Doesn't work.
I got in the cab business in 1989 actively. I was raised up in the cab industry. My father was one of the owners of Yellow Cab back in the 60s and 70s. Thought I'd never get it and thought that was the last industry I'd want to be involved with. It was a much different industry then. I got out of the Navy, went to college, worked a while, came back and saw a lot of opportunity and got in the taxi cab business in the summer of 1989. Started driving for Music City Taxi, started becoming an owner-operator, driving my own vehicle, having drivers. Back then, at that time, the lease structure at that time for a weekly lease was $150 a week for the cab, per cab, if you owned your own vehicle. Currently, that's what Music City Taxi's lease is still. We've not raised that lease in those 23 years. The way we've done that is by cutting pennies cost any way we could to try to restructure. We've maintained that, and and Buddy or anybody else can be a witness to that. Also, Music City has not received any permits in that time. We've not received one permit since 1989, and maybe farther back than that, but that's since my involvement. I went on to being an owner-operator, saving my money, working 80 hours a week, plus. I worked every hour. Everybody said, what happened to, everybody would ask me, so what happened to Johnny? Johnny went to work. Johnny found something that I was impassioned with, and I'm still impassioned with this, and I'm 47 years old now, and I've applied every penny every penny to that, even to the point in the beginning stages of letting my electric bill go unpaid so I could keep the cabs running and keep the company going. But those days are over, hopefully. But since then, I've assembled a management team that no other company can rival, and that's myself, Mike Wald, who's been in the business for 20 years, ex-Navy. Everybody in town at some point goes to Mike for some type of meter installation or equipment or problem. Or they call Mike. He does equipment installation and handles taxi inspections and handles that side of our industry. Robert Russell, he's our operations manager, has been doing it for 12 years. Renee White, she's been in admin part she's been working at the company for 10 years. Wileen Jones, accounts and customer relations, 21 years. And if there's anyone better at her job, I'd like to find somebody. So she's going to be retiring here in a couple of years. And then Keith Litteral, we hired him last year. I've known him for a long time. He's been in the marketing and retail management for 20 years. Hired him last year, and we've expanded our business. Since Keith has come on board, we have expanded our customer reservations, customers in our reservation system, over 2,300 persons that we have just in the reservations that people call and need, and they require us. They go online, make their reservation, and they can do that online now. So that's what we've shown in the last year. We've shown that our marketing is really taking place. It's really taken off, and that's been very, very helpful. He also handles all of our customer relations where if there's ever a problem, which it does happen. We have problems on a weekly basis where something happens, someone feels like they were overcharged, or something happens with a credit card, or it could be as easily as a wallet or a purse or something left in the vehicle. He makes sure that he does everything in his power to make sure that wallet or purse or whatever gets back to the customer. Then we give an incentive. We're starting an incentive program to give the incentive to the drivers to make sure that they are encouraged to bring the stuff that gets left in the vehicles. We also went through the process to get approved in outer counties in Franklin and Hendersonville. We're the only company that it has taken that step. We went to the process with the police department both and registered all of our cab drivers, dual permitted them so they would have record of all of our drivers in Hendersonville and Sumner County and in Williamson County. So they're dually permitted in both cities, or all three cities. We've taken sizable investments. With our company to put GPS systems in there, added computers, hiring additional staff. We own our properties over at 729 Calhoun off of Fessler's Lane and 40th. We moved there several years ago because we wanted to be more central located to the city of Nashville. So we put a lot of investment in our drivers and our employees. So our investments are radios, tablets, those mounting brackets, computers, dispatch software, and our marketing. Combined, our management staff has over 100 years of relative experience. We're in multiple media sources. We have everything from Facebook to the barcode scans to web pages and Twitter. We're trying to get involved in everything. We also have a new app page that's going to be coming on. I think it's, what's that group, Keith? The Fleetbit. So we'll have a new app that'll be to our company, specifically to our company, that we're going to be launching as well. I read in one of those quotes in one of those I think it was Hotel Indigo, and it stated that if you aren't taking the time to step up your game and spending money to step up your game, you're going to be left behind, because there are plenty of people willing to come into the market with a new product. Well, that lit a fire under us to realize that we can't wait 23 years or 24 years to add on permit, to get additional permits. We come here now to ask that we get rewarded for the time that we've spent. You can look in our records and you will not find anything that we've done that we've not. If there's been any issues, we've resolved those. We've had a perfect record with the Better Business Bureau for all these years. We've done everything that the city's asked. Sergeant Mary, sorry, I can't think of her name. Sergeant Mary, she was going to come to speak on our behalf because we work with the LP Field and Fanfare. She just happened to be sick today. She was sick yesterday. She's going to be out for about a week in her office. So, sorry I didn't bring. I didn't. My mistake was not to get my councilman involved, I guess, to come up here to speak on her behalf. But who better to speak than myself? So, and if you have any questions, I'll be willing to answer those.
Commissioners, are there any questions for Mr. White?
I've got two questions.
Yes, sir.
Right now, how many accessible cabs are you?
We have one at the current time.
One, and then do you have any alternative fuel vehicles?
We do not.
Okay.
I did in my notes, we would be prepared to put a percentage of our fleet, not just the additional permits, but we would just consider putting, if we bid 5%, that would be at least 5 wheelchair vans, at least 5, it would probably be 6 or 7, 7 wheelchair vans and 7 alternative fuel vehicles, whether they be fuel efficient. We're also working with a major manufacturer right now with a marketing group, Richland Marketing, to try to work with a marketing group. They want to put one of their vehicles on and do something like, and do a wrap with the vehicle. It's an electric vehicle, to put it on. So we're in the process of doing it. I don't have all the details worked out on that yet. We just started that, but so we are in the process of working with it. It's a major company, local.
Any other questions from commissioners? Thank you, Mr. White.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Do we have a representative of Black Cab?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, Chairman, Vice Chairman, Mr. Fields. We appreciate the time that you've given us to appear before you. I'm going to try to take 5 minutes and expedite part of our process. We provided you with our business plan. This is Mr. Zaliki Awash. Mr. Awash came to the United States in 1990, came to Nashville in 1990. Started with a small business, and as a family business has grown into a business that has over $1 million in assets. And those are the assets that he is planning to invest and reinvest in Nashville in black cabs of Tennessee. They're going to be London-style cabs. The uniqueness of that London-style cab is something that we think will be neat. It will be unique, and the most important aspect of what we're talking about is the driver training programs that we listed in here with the Tennessee Safety Council and training the drivers in these areas. It is family-owned. McKinnon, his daughter, is here, is going to be working, who operates the store that he works. She's going to be, come forward, please, McKinnon. And Yodit is a graduate of Tennessee State. She is in industrial management, and that's her degree, and so she's going to be running that. His other son is a graduate of the Nashville Auto Diesel College, and he's going to be responsible for the maintenance of these vehicles. I'd like to introduce Mercedes Jones. Mercedes Jones is a member of the Metro Board of Zoning Appeals, I apologize. She's going to be working with a citizens committee on this to be able to do a secret rider program. That every month there are going to be 10 people riding in Nashville, checking the quality, checking the hospitality, and moving through that process of reporting back in a mystery shopper program to Mr. Zaliki. And you can look, we have provided you with his financial statement. The thing that I think is unique, he's homegrown. If there's a problem, you know where to find him. I also introduced to you as another member of the Citizens Board, which will be Mr. Abdelaziz Haroun. Mr. Haroun is in the insurance and real estate business here in Nashville. Mr. Haroun has been very active in the community and serving in the community, and he's here to endorse. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Awash, Mr. Zaliki Awash, to address you for just a moment and for him to answer any questions that you have. But you have all of his certified financial statements to show his ability to perform to the highest levels. He, too, is committed to clean energy, and that is a part of what he's willing to do, too, in his clean energy efficiency in the automobiles that he will bring to the table. So I'll give to you Mr. Zaliki Awash.
Mr. Awash?
Yes, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I can say I'm Nashvilleian. I live in Nashville almost more than 14 years. I had 3 gas stations and 1 liquor store. We as a family with my kids, with 2 of my daughter, 1 of my son, and my wife, as a family, we start business in Nashville. And I born in a family who already have business, and I grew up in a business. All of my sisters, 2 of my sisters, they have convenience store. 1 of my brother in Florida, Tampa, in Kokowich, and in New Orleans, Louisiana, he have store. We make business as a profession. And I'm doing this business too. In 2004, when we start business, we start with $120,000. We bought a gas station business with 2 of my daughter, my wife, and my son. 2005, we bought another liquor store. We worked 3 years. When we buy those stores, you don't believe that store was in a very prime location, but doesn't make any money. We just bought that store, changed it into a money-making machine. Within 3 years, we made more than $500,000. In 2007, again, we bought another store on Thompson Lane. In 2009, during that bad time, when everybody is scared to put money in the bank, me and my family, my children, as a team, we invested $800,000 in Nashville. $800,000 in 2010, when everybody was scared. We believe on investment. We just really a very successful business people. When I say very successful, success is not coming really simply. Success is gonna come from good team, good customer service, good management, respect the customer, deliver quality product and quality service. Our business is in Nashville. Our station is over here on the second page, I guess. In Nashville, when I bought that store, really, we did great job. Everybody's coming to our store. We said, thank you for doing this, not only for yourself, for our community. So we are very proud and I stand here. Two of my sons are a taxi driver. One of my son-in-law get married with my older daughter. He's a taxi driver. I want to really come and create a new taxi family business company that can really give a great service for Nashville community. And
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Commissioner, if you have
If
any
I could
questions.
introduce one other person, my law partner, David Lyons. I don't know if he's still here, but he was here in support of what we were doing, and I always have to support our firm here in this. So does anyone have any questions?
Commissioners?
I have a question. Does Black Cab have any intention to commit a certain number of the permits to alternative fuel taxis?
Yes.
yes,
The Black Cab, the model is the HHS Chevrolet. We met with Tom Bannon Chevrolet this week, talked about that aspect of it, looking at what they're doing with their fleet, and so that's the direction that we're going, and we specifically looking more at the hybrid model more than anything else, because with the fracking and everything, we feel like that the hybrid is going to be your better model to try to prevent and continue to be that higher level of economic and environmental success, and not try to encourage fracking in Tennessee.
Do you have members of management, Mr. Awash, that are familiar with the taxi cab industry that you plan on employing and bringing into the fold with you?
yes. My son is he's driving taxi more than 5 years.
In Nashville?
Yeah, in Nashville. And I have two sons who's driving taxi in Nashville. I have one
Which
son-in-law.
companies are they with?
Huh?
Which companies are
One
they?
is he's driving in yellow cab, and everybody knows knows him here. And one is driving in Allied.
Okay.
And I have my son-in-law also driving a taxi company, a taxi cab. And my other son-in-law, he get a driving license permit and waiting on the line to get a taxi. So I have all kind of expertise. I graduated also really with business accounting and management. My daughter also, she have a bachelor degree in administration and planning. And my another daughter, she have really a good customer service. Means really we have all kind of expertise. And one of my son, he is going to auto diesel college, and he love to fix car, and he's gonna be our team too.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Awash.
Thank you all very much.
Can we have a representative of Checker Cab?
Good afternoon. My name is Brandy Dismang. I'm the manager of the Checker Cab Company. This is Chelsea Kephart. She is my assistant. And we're coming before you today to ask for a percentage of the new permits being issued. First of all, we'd like to express our appreciation from the previous meeting where we were granted additional permits. And upon receiving them, we carefully considered numerous candidates from Checker Cab and other existing companies before distributing them. We're asking today for 15 additional permits, and if those are granted to us, we will use 50% of the amount issued as hybrid vehicles. We currently have 5 hybrid vehicles and 1 natural gas vehicle in service. We are in the process of expanding our business by setting up local accounts that are only requesting those vehicles. In addition to this, we're attracting the attention of the local residents, promoting our business for other accounts for our drivers. Checker Cab has also increased its insurance coverage from the state minimum requirement to a $300,000 liability policy. All Checker Cabs are in compliance with the insurance coverage, which provides better protection for our customers and our clients. We would like the opportunity to expand our business and continue to provide exceptional service throughout the city, proving that we are leaders in the taxi industry. At Checker Cab, we have rules and regulations that we follow in an effort to ensure that the residents and visitors are given a respectful and responsible method of transportation when in the Nashville area. I mean, I can go on about the GPS and the modern technology, but we do that every time, and I mean, we have it. We're leaders in that. Is there anything else that you
The
want to
15
ask?
permits that you had issued to you previously, how have those permits been used, and how has their volume affected your business?
That's what we put in, 5 hybrid vehicles and the 1 natural gas of the 15 spots that you gave us last time.
Yeah.
And as I said, we've had a lot of the local doctors, actually, some local firms that have called us wanting accounts for those vehicles solely. They like the idea of it, and so that's increased our business with accounts for them. I don't know what was the other question, I'm sorry.
That pretty much
Is that it?
answers it.
Okay.
How's their volume as far as in comparison to the other permitted drivers that you had
Well,
in
I mean,
place?
the hybrid cars are on the street the same as the regular vehicles, so of course they work the airport, they work downtown, they work the normal runs, but we have people that call in and request them, and that is exciting to me. I don't know if you've seen them on the streets, but they catch you. I mean, we painted them a different color and made them stand out so everybody knows that they are hybrids.
Commissioners?
If we're granted additional permits, we will put more hybrids in. 50% of whatever we're granted, we'll put additional hybrids in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representatives of Green Cap.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I'm Jim Murphy on behalf of Green Cab, and with me today are Tedessa Essa, Solomon Burkle, and Melinda Grant from Green Cab. They're the owners, and Melinda will be the manager of Green Cab. As Councilman Davis pointed out, Green Cab's business model is different from the other cab companies. They're going to be 100% alternative fuel or hybrid. Obviously, Green Cab has a history of seeking these permits because they first came to the board back in 2011 and were approved for permits conditioned upon the council adding positions to the Transportation Licensing Commission. That didn't happen, and so we're back here today to seek those permits. The main thing that differentiates Green Cab from the other companies that are here, as I said, they're 100% environmentally friendly, they're 100% green, which will accomplish the mayor's goal of making Nashville America's greenest city. One of the things that's important about having 100% fleet that's environmentally friendly is when a customer who wants an environmentally friendly car calls Green Cab, they know they'll get one because the whole fleet is green. There won't be a chance that some of the green vehicles are already committed and are out on the street. With Green Cab, all of the vehicles will be green. So if you call Green Cab, you know you'll get an environmentally friendly cab. One of the things that, again, Green Cab is asking for 30 new Green Cab permits so that they can significantly increase the number of alternative fuel and hybrid vehicles that are in the street. when Green Cab originally applied in 2011, they were asking for 50. They've reduced that number down to 30. One of the things that is important about this application is that you did a study, you authored or commissioned a study last year by RPM Transportation, and one of the things you asked them to look at were how do you get, do you have enough hybrid vehicles on the street? And that study reflected that you did not have the same amount as comparable cities, and that it would be difficult to get them because you'd have to replace vehicles or issue new permits. Well, here, if you issue these 30 permits to Green Cab, you'll have 30 new Green Cabs on the street within 90 days. So that's one of the things that differentiates Green Cab. Now, one of the things that, one of the questions is whether or not the folks at Green Cab, the owners of Green Cab, can make this can start up this company and make it operate. This is a new cab company, so obviously that's one of the challenges. Both of the owners of Green Cab have experience in the cab business. Mr. Essa was in the cab business in Seattle. He then moved to Nashville and operated a convenience store for several years, and about a year ago purchased an automobile dealer. Mr. Burkle has been in the cab business in New York and is currently owner of a cab company in Murfreesboro that's been operating for several years. Ms. Grant, who will be the manager, has worked at the cab company in Murfreesboro as a dispatcher and office manager. So they have the experience running cab companies. The next thing that they have, obviously, is they have this automobile dealership that they own. Mr. Essa and Mr. Burkle own an automobile dealership, which will be the location where Green Cab will operate out of the same location, so that they can utilize the facilities of the repair body shop. So the painting, the repair, the maintenance of the vehicles will be done in the existing business. So they don't have the cost of having to gear up and equip up a body shop. They already have that, and they don't have to go out and hire a private maintenance company to do that because they've got that in-house. So that gives them an advantage that other companies don't have, that a new company wouldn't have. We've submitted financial statements. We've also done an economic feasibility study that shows that if 30 permits were issued, that this company could get up and running and be profitable in a relatively short period of time. So there's not really a question of whether or not they can make this process work. They have the infrastructure in place with the automobile dealership. They have the experience. And then they have, Mr. Burkle has been trained in converting. Mr. Burkle's a mechanic. He's been trained in doing the conversion from gasoline vehicles to compressed natural gas vehicles. So that can all be done in-house. They can acquire the vehicles utilizing their automobile dealership. They can get them at an auction rate, which is a significant savings. They can then convert them in-house. They're going to be owned by the company, so the company will be in control over the quality of the vehicle, the maintenance of the vehicle, so that the customers will get the best product when Green Cab shows up. They'll be clean, they'll be repaired, they'll be well maintained. So those are things that obviously you as a commissioner are looking for as to how this company will serve the public. Well, clearly having these alternative fuel vehicles is a benefit to the public. Compressed natural gas is the most environmentally friendly fossil fuel. It will reduce emissions considerably. The other thing is compressed natural gas is significantly cheaper than regular gasoline, so it will be cheaper for the drivers who are providing, who are purchasing the fuel to operate these vehicles. So it will result in savings on that end. Unless you have any other questions, one other thing, they will have GPS-aided dispatch, and they will have an app where customers can actually follow the vehicles when they call them to see them coming to them, so that they'll be able to monitor that they're getting a vehicle and the vehicle is coming. So they're very focused on providing good customer service. That customer service will be environmentally friendly. So if y'all have any questions, I'll try to answer them, or I'll have one of my team help answer the question.
Commissioners?
So right now the plan is to use all compressed natural gas?
starting with compressed natural gas because those are the ones that they can get up quickest, but also hybrids. They're also looking at using hybrids to the extent that they can get them off the market.
So I noticed for the in the pro forma, they have 30 cabs at $11,000 apiece. That's the total capital of the 330.
Right.
So they're saying they can get a compressed natural gas vehicle on the road for an average of $11,000.
That's their estimate, yes. And that's, again, buying them at auction and doing the conversion work in-house. So that they have significant cost advantages in that regard because of those two factors, that they can buy them at the wholesale auctions and they can convert them in-house.
The request is for 30 permits?
That's correct.
So you're reducing your request from 70 to 30.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Murphy.
you.
Sorry. We have a representative from Quick Cab.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Commissioner. My name is Devang Bhatt, and I'm representing Quick Cab. I was here last time and shared with you my thoughts on a customer service, and we are here to furnish Nashville with a great customer care cab company, which takes pride in being Southern and true Nashvilleian. Like the police department and the fire department, cab company plays an essential part in every growing city. And they are the pillars of the transportation industries, and any essential pillar has to be strong based on a concrete management and vast and varied experience. I have a 24 years of work experience and a background which deals in a customer service and corporate management. I have owned and successfully ran one of the largest fleet of trucks and hotels, as you have seen in my resume. Operating a trucking company had many similarities with running a cab company, and you had to provide the customer with reliable service, pick up at one point, travel safely, and arrive at your destination. Every employee and customer is very important to me, and I want them to have an exceptional experience. So Quick Cab will hire only the most courteous drivers after intensive background check. Since our cab drivers are often the first people our tourists meet, and they can set the tone for their visit, we will communicate well with customers and drivers, provide a pleasant and comfortable ride for all customers, including our elderly and disabled, and give our tourists a taste of Southern hospitality that we are now famous for and which has been the subject of recent national press. Quick Cab is also planning to equip our cars with the video entertainment console so every customer is aware of all most current events and messages from our leaders in Nashville. If there is a concert at Bridgestone that week or a new exhibit at Frisch Center, anyone riding a Quick Cab will know. Mayor Dean wants Nashville to be green city, and I would like to help. Quick Cab is committed to put a suitable environmental friendly vehicle, and we are in constant communication with one of the largest natural gas producer in Wyoming to bring CNG station which will be available to everyone around the clock, and we are negotiating a deal with mass producer of the conversion kit for all our vehicle when the station is available. Quick Cab is also working a program where we will promptly furnish a cab to our senior citizen with generous discount, and they will receive extra care for their needs. We will serve our citizen as well as tourists. Both will get the best service. As the owner of Quick Cab, I have most management experience of several hospitality and transportation companies, and I have immense experience in health industries as well as recreational and tourism industries. And when we are looking for that essential pillar that I talked about earlier, we need an asset which has the skillful management. I'm also supported by the Hotel and Motel Association of Nashville and Tennessee Business Association. In the light of my experience in these industries and my close dealings with many other service industries, I'm requesting commissioners to give Quick Cab a chance to serve our community and make Nashville proud of us. I have a passion, experience, light, and vision to make Quick Cab a successful company. Thank you very much.
Do any commissioners have any questions?
I would like to introduce Mr. Buck at this point in time.
I'm Buck Dozier, the Executive Director of State Fairgrounds, and I come here today on behalf of Quick Cab. I first met the principal a number of years ago in another life when I was in the Metro Council and working with Mayor Bettis in his office. And the principal then was on Dickerson Road running some businesses, and I dealt with him there. And I really want to emphasize the strong management skills that I believe that Mr. Bahat has. The other thing, though, before I would agree to come down here, being at a place where customer service is absolutely necessary, I wanted to know exactly whether or not he had a love for Nashville, which I simply believe he does, and could that love for Nashville translate to the drivers? You know and I know that one of my maintenance people at the fairgrounds could have a bad day and influence 50 people out there, and they have a bad experience at the fairgrounds. The same thing can happen in a cab. With the new convention center coming on board, there's going to be more people coming to Nashville. People generally love Nashville. They want to be here, and we don't want to have a bad experience in a cab. I honestly believe that this management company, this cab company, understands fully that concept, and I think he'll carry it out with the management skills that he has. And I hope you will consider him. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all of you for your service.
Thank you.
I just wanted to come back up here and read to you an email. This is not really in regard to any specific company. Just so you know, we get emails about every commission out there. So this is just an email that just came through to all the council members. It says, please tell me how restricting the number of taxis is not a blatant restraint of trade. I understand the need for business license, but limiting providers of any service to the public is willing to employ is against the age-old American principle of fairness and free enterprise. Even more glaring is the application of, and I assume, enforcement of minimum fees and transporter of people to the airport as to charge. This is not my constituent, but just kind of wanted you to know there's other people definitely interested in this. So we would love to have some new companies on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Taxi USA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. I'm Giff Thornton. I'm glad to be back with you this afternoon. With me is Michael Solomon, who you've met before as the president of our company. Brandon Green, who's the general manager, is also with us today. You have our letter of January the 10th, which I commend to you. I hope you've had time to look at that. I tried to lay out as simply and as succinctly possible the case for Taxi USA to be granted additional permits following the requirements of the Metropolitan Code. As we've talked about before, the code sets forth two criteria. First question is, does the current supply of taxi cabs in the community adequately meet the need? And I'm here to tell you today, now more than ever, even before the new convention center comes online, the answer to that question is no. Just from the perspective of Taxi USA, our experience entering the market in 2006 and literally creating a market by delivering superior service, equipment, technology, and drivers committed to a higher standard has created demand that didn't exist before. And we currently are not able to meet the demand that we are getting in terms of call traffic with our existing supply. Michael can give you the numbers. I believe they're in our packet from August. He can give you an update, but it's not just by a little bit. We are dramatically undersupplied in terms of the current demand that we are facing. This is one company today. The second criteria you have to consider is the experience, character, financial condition of the applicant. And again, we've talked about this some before, but character, you've heard a lot today from elected officials and otherwise about the character of applicants who are new entrants to the market, and we congratulate them and we take everyone at their word. In our case, you've got a track record. We entered the market in 2006. We've got a record of cooperation with the commission, with your staff, compliance with the rules, and keeping our word. that I think is compelling. You're not taking any chances when you award additional permits to Taxi USA in terms of upholding the statutory requirement for character in your applicants. Experience. You've heard some about experience of individuals seeking permits. Our company's been in the business 60 years. We've been in Nashville for the last 7 years, and we have brought the best practices, literally from around the country, to this market, and we believe we've raised the game of all providers, everything from computerized dispatch to credit card swipe to security cameras in the back seat. Our insurance on each vehicle is $1 million of liability. $1 million of liability. When you think about protecting the citizens of the city, we hear a lot about, whose interests are at stake here. When you're talking about the citizens of the city of Nashville, you get into a bad accident, something happens. What company is out there that's going to have the insurance to take care of somebody who gets injured? We've got $1 million of coverage. I think that's an example of where our interests are trying to be directed. Financial condition, we've invested a lot of money in the city, and we think that shows in the demand that we've generated and the quality of the vehicles. Our vehicles are newer, and our technology is better. Responsibility, I think I've really said that already. We've shown that we're a responsible company. Michael's going to talk some about really all of these applicants are here on behalf of their drivers. The drivers are the owners of the vehicles. The drivers are the ones, you're really talking about 60 small businesses. You're talking about 60 Nashvillians, whoever the company is that gets the permits. And we've developed the administrative marketing support to put drivers on the road who've got a chance to succeed and provide a living for their families. Michael can elaborate on that.
Thank you very much for your service and your time today. Taxi USA has been growing the taxi business in this market, not only for Taxi USA, but we believe for the citizens to put them back in taxi cabs since we came in 2006. Our call count's gone from 4,000 calls a week to 50,000 calls a month. And of those 50,000 calls a month, there's about 8,000 of those calls that we can't even service. So we've created the demand, we marketed, we delivered a solution that the end user, mostly the citizens, 80 or 90% of our services, the actual citizens of Nashville, going to the doctors, going to the grocery store, going to feed their families, or going wherever they're going. And they're utilizing the services that our owner-drivers provide. They're small businessmen and women. They are in business for themselves. They've elected to operate under a franchise that we, Taxi USA, deploy, the 1-800 Taxicab brand, Allied Cab, and Nashville Cab. The drivers of these vehicles have in their vehicles the tablet that American Music City showed you. We have security cameras that record the inside and the outside of the taxi cab that runs 24 hours a day. We've unfortunately had a death. A drunk driver killed one of our cab drivers in November. It was pretty bad. We have a camera in the car. It shows the details of what took place. I mean, it's not, and obviously we could do nothing for the soul that's no longer with us, but it gives us and gives everybody involved some sense of security. The driver feels safer. He feels like he's being treated better by the consumer that's riding in his cab, the enforcement, the regulator talking to him in the window, and God forbid there's an accident. There's a solution to go back to identify where that challenge came from. The consumer has the ability to swipe their own credit card in the back seat of the car. The driver doesn't have to touch his credit card. The Vanderbilt students at Vanderbilt swipe their student IDs in the back of our cars, and we charge their accounts. I mean, there's so many opportunities that our drivers have and the consumers that ride in our drivers' vehicles that aren't going to be and can't be met by the new companies. Those companies may be great companies as they grow, build their business, and serve the public. We already have the business. The citizens of Nashville, greater Nashville, demand our service, our reliability, and they expect ultimately to get a cab when they call us for service. And we don't just not show up. We just tell them we'll be there in an hour. We'll be there in 2 hours, and that's just not a solution for them. The GPS dispatching service that we provide, we've talked about this before, gives the caller the closest cab. Just not a cab. The closest cab gets the call. That's the way it works. It's a fair system. Drivers make a living, hopefully feed themselves and feed their families.
A couple more things, if I may. In response to an earlier question, we are committed at the Commission's will to put 30 hybrid vehicles on the streets if these permits are granted. And we commit always to keep at least 10% of our whole force as ADA accessible. So we've got 18 on the market now, 18 in the city, which is half of the total that are available with all of the carriers. We'll commit to stay at 10% of the permits that we've got. if you grant us additional permits. The last thing I'll say is that you granted us 15 permits in August, and in 2 days, we interviewed 100 drivers who wanted those permits with Taxi USA, and that was just all we could see. I'm just telling you, the demand was there for drivers right now. We'll be there when the convention center opens, but the demand is there right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I have a question. Right now, there are a total of 645 permits in metropolitan Nashville. How many permits, in your opinion, do you think the city can?
750 probably, and it all depends on the demand the Music City brings to us, Music City Center brings to us. We know, based on the call volume that we're seeing, and we're in, I think, 21 states. We have 5,000 taxi cabs altogether all over the country. And we look at these numbers and deploy the amount of vehicles that are going to meet the demand. We don't want churning of drivers. There's nothing worse from our perspective as the franchisor to churn drivers. The cost of that is you can't recover from that. So we turn over, I think, 8 drivers in 2012. 8 drivers. So there's no churning of drivers. And we don't want to just put it, if you said 100 cars, is that too many? Probably so. The market couldn't sustain that. The drivers won't get the calls they need. They won't be able to survive. So there is just enough. Those 15 permits we got didn't touch our calls. They were on the street in 37 days, and we were in service operating, but they didn't touch the calls we already have. We stopped advertising. We stopped marketing. We aren't out there knocking on doors asking for business because it's already here, and we can't take any more calls. So what do? We're the proverbial dog that caught the car. And that's a challenge that we have to overcome, and by doing that is acquiring additional permits at your pleasure to give us the ability to serve the citizens of Nashville, which is the most important part. And I think that's what your job is, and then my job is to get the driver to serve the citizens based on our system of fairness and on-time, courteous service, that we're just not blowing smoke. We're absolutely delivering a car when somebody wants it. You know, the wheelchair taxis, we didn't talk about that. We do average of 400 wheelchair runs a week in our system. So 400. 18 cabs. We aren't required to have those cabs. Some of them we agreed to have, but the majority of them, we put those cabs out there and we'll continue to do that. I mean, it's part of our business and we appreciate it, want it. So it's at your pleasure what you want us to deploy. But as Gift said, we'll put 100% brand new hybrid vehicles. We already have them in the parking lot. All we got to do is paint them. You tell us yes and they'll be on the road. So it's your solution. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What percentage of calls can you not handle now?
8%.
8%. And I'd like to commend you and actually Yellow both for having 10% of your fleet for ADA accessible. You're the only 2 companies.
Any further questions by commissioners? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's have a representative from TNCAP.
It please the Commission, I'm Jerry Lee of the Nashville Bar. I'm here today on behalf of TNCAB. I would be remiss if I didn't thank each of you and each of the elected representatives who came here and spoke today. I know that you do that on your own time, and you do it to improve the city of Nashville, and you should be commended for it. TNCAB was formed a year ago. It is a Tennessee limited liability company. It was formed for the express purpose of filing and pursuing the application that brings us here today. It is owned by its 58 members. All 58 of those members are immigrants to this country, and all 58 of those members are currently employed as drivers for existing taxi cab companies here in Nashville. Unlike my clients, I was born and raised here in Nashville, and in my relatively short life, I've seen some tremendous changes here in town. When I grew up, we had black folks and white folks, and if we wanted diversity, we had somebody with a Yankee accent every now and then. We have so much diversity now, I think we tend to take it for granted. Diversity is a great thing. It teaches us tolerance, and it teaches us respect and understanding for people who may look different from us, who may talk differently from us, who may be from a different part of the world, who may worship in a different place on a different day. But they're all human beings, and they all want the same thing. They want a better future for themselves and for their family. Because we have so much diversity now, I think we sometimes take for granted what immigrants to this country have gone through. And for just a moment, I want you to take the time to imagine yourself, like my clients, in a country that is torn by civil war, where you go off to work in the morning and you don't know when you come home at the end of the day, if you're lucky enough to have a job, if your house is going to be there, or if your family is going to be there. They came from that environment. They were forced from their homeland, from the land where they were born, and they were transported, think about it, halfway around the world to a different continent, a different culture, a different language, and plop down feet first and say, now do the best you can. And what did these people do? They went out and did what wave after wave, millions of immigrants to this country have done for the last 300 years. They went out and got the best jobs they could, given their skill set. They worked long hours and they worked hard to make a better future for themselves and for their families. That's what my people have experienced. But after a while, they did a very American thing. They decided that they could build a better mousetrap. The job they took was taxi drivers. They reasoned that a taxi driver who has a stake in the outcome of his company will be better qualified, better able to provide service to the customers. He'll be happier. They frequently in these meetings you hear us talk about the taxi drivers are the ambassadors for the city. It's hard to be a smiling ambassador when you are an at-will employee and you can have your job threatened and your family's future threatened because you did nothing other than try to better yourself by forming your own company and becoming your own boss. And yes, members of my group have been met with those threats because they're here today trying to get this company off the ground. An at-will employee does not give you job security. Your job is every bit as secure as if your boss, his brother-in-law needs a job, you're out, brother-in-law's in. You cannot build a future for your family if you have no job security. What they want to do is be their own owners, their own bosses, and they want to treat their drivers differently from the way drivers are currently being treated. Now, they realize that they have certain deficiencies in their skill set. They did another very American thing. They went out and hired a lawyer, God bless them, to help them form their company and pursue this application. When they saw they had some communication problems with telling their story to you and other people on whom they are dependent for their futures, they went out and hired public relations people to help them with that. When they were here before you in August and questions were raised about their color scheme of their cab, there might be confusion with an existing carrier. What did they do? They went out and changed their color scheme. They will do what you ask them to do if you will give them the opportunity. You raised questions about their management experience. What did they do? They went out and they hired people who have incredible management credentials and experience. They hired a new dispatcher who has worked as a 911 dispatcher in a major metropolitan area and who has also worked locally here as a dispatcher for an existing carrier. They hired an operations manager who has years of management experience. So you point out a problem, they get right on it, they correct it, and they move on. Now, most everyone that has come in here today, and will probably, those that will follow me, will talk about credit card machines and GPS and hybrids and handicapped accessible vehicles, and all those things are important. But all these applicants are going to tell you they'll do what you want to do with respect to those things because they want to curry favor with you. We'll do those things if you want us to do those things. That's the point. These people can be trusted to do what is right. If it's right for them to have a certain percentage of hybrid vehicles or handicapped accessible vehicles, they'll do that. They are drivers, however, so they know what the needs of the public are, and therefore I think they're in a better position to judge those needs. What we want to focus on instead of GPS and things like that is people. These are good people. They work hard and they take care of their own. One of their members is a driver for another company, suffered a heart attack about a month ago. He's been in a coma for 30 days. Nobody could pay his lick. The members of my group went out and collected money to pay his lick so they can keep his job available for him if he ever recovers, if he can ever go back to work again. They have made sure he has a job to go back to. That's the kind of people they are. They do the right thing, and they will do the right thing by you. If you will trust them by empowering them to live out their American dream and start their own company, they will deliver for you, and they will make the city of Nashville better. I have a number of people here with me today. We didn't have them all stand up. If you have any specific questions that I cannot answer, I will direct them to them. Do I have any questions?
You said they went out and hired experienced management. What type of steps did they have, and who did they hire as this experienced management since our last get-together?
I hired Mr. Fisher here to my right. Mr. Fisher has got numerous years in management, both in startup companies and in Forbes 500 companies. And they went out and hired him because you pointed out a problem, they addressed that problem.
And what is his role with the company?
He's the management supervisor.
Commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Let's have a representative from United.
Honorable Chairman, sir, and the Honorable Commissioners. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to represent United Taxi. Well, I'm short of words. I don't know what to say, but I yet have to say something. You know, it's like a walking stick. When you go to buy a walking stick, the salesman is going to give you all the works, diamonds and this will do this and this will do that. But basically, it's an ornament. When you put weight on that stick, it's going to crumble. You need cab companies here, which are like a real walking stick, which can enforce the rules of the commission and the city, which can provide an excellent service, not lip service. Fortunately, or unfortunately, in this city, there are only two cab companies which have survived. One is Yellow Cab, which is the oldest, and one is United Cab, which is the newest. We have been in business for 15 years. Several cab companies were issued. They were all driver-owned companies, including me. I started driving for the old Music City. I mean, people have been bragging and boasting, so I also must follow them. Before I came here, I was the chairman and managing director of a huge paper mill. I was an educated engineer by education. I was from an institution which is like the West Point. So when I came to Nashville, what did I see? Jaloping jaunties, the maximum a car cost was $1,000. They were all $500 deals, drivers playing cards, and it was fun. So I bought a van which was $18,700 in 1994. And people used to crack jokes. They say, this guy is crazy. Why did you buy a new car? They soon realized that my car was running with two drivers. The only time it went to the shop was for change of oil and the brake pads. Whereas those guys were mostly sitting outside the mechanic playing cards. Since then, every innovation, every technology which has been brought to Nashville has been brought by me, United. We brought in 2004 the first digital dispatch system. I brought in the first new van. I brought in the best fleet. Mr. Buddy Lawan will tell you we always had the best fleet in the city. I raised the standards of the cars. I was the first guy who opened a workshop. I realized that the cabs don't have a shop. I opened a shop which was to rebuild transmissions, fix engines, bodywork and everything, so that the cabs had a place to go to. Anyway, all that is past because technology is moving leaps and bounds. Like Steve Jobs, he brought in the Apple phone, all the other companies have followed suit. And the phone app provides you with everything. So what we need here is not people coming and promoting themselves with attorneys and things. We need smart drivers and smart companies. By a smart driver, I mean if a customer sits in your car, then as long as he's here, he shouldn't think of calling anybody else. And if he goes back and he wants to come back here, he should call you up and say, hey fella, I'll be in town. That's a smart driver. That means that driver drives carefully, he's well dressed, he's got a nice cab, and all those good things which come in customer service, knowledge of the city, etc., etc. So what you need here is smart companies. A smart company is the one which adapts to existing technology, gets rid of the old technology. Now, things like the gas vehicles. Who brought all these ideas? I brought it in. I spoke to 2 companies who wanted to put up gas stations here. I've even got them a site, and it cost $1 million+ for each station. And now what does that station do? It pumps gas into a car in 25-35 minutes. So that means in 24 hours, you can only pump gas into 48 cars. You need so many of them to feed the fleet. So till we don't have the infrastructure, all this gas and CNG and all that is gone. There was a company here, London Cab. They came with a great idea that we'll have those black cabs here. Wow. Each cab was costing 50,000 plus. Not viable. If you put in 50,000 plus into a cab, you'll be polishing shoes somewhere. You cannot make the money to pay for that cab. So those guys left. They didn't succeed. Because anyone who comes here, he's going to offer you the moon. But you know, when you go for the 100 meters in Olympics, who wins the best? I am a winner. I'm the gold medalist. I'm the only guy who has practically survived in the city. I am the only guy till date who has brought in every technology. They may claim all GPS. That's obsolete. I'm on to the app now. That app is going to be so good. You sitting in your office would be able to zoom in onto a cab and say, hey, what's this guy doing here? If a cab is involved in an accident, you'll be able to zoom and say, this is going on. If a cab is, robbed, you'll be able to check. The app will give you everything and you can think of. It'll be a smart, see, now they're showing you the terminals. It's obsolete. If you're sitting in a car, you got to have your AC running if it's summers, and you've got to have your heat running if it's winters. You're putting static miles, you're wasting gas, whereas our thing, you walk out with a smartphone, you can relax, and you're always connected. You don't have to go into all those old, obsolete, cumbersome things. So I would suggest that in all these years, 8 years have not applied. All these companies have been coming in with their big details and all that and getting permits, but I didn't apply. Now, to give them the competition and keep the lead, those companies have gone bigger than me. I should be at least brought up to their level because I am your child. I am the only company which this commission in the last 40 years sanctioned and which succeeded. The rest either merged or they sold out. Thank you.
I got one thing to say. The most important thing is this here is that we got 15 years of experience here. We shouldn't be getting penalized. We should be getting rewarded for being in business for 15 years.
Yeah, just being good, I lost an airport spot.
Thank you.
Because we didn't have the numbers. So, I mean, the existing companies, those sticks, the pillars on which the practical functional pillars of the city, you should strengthen those before trying out new. See, what's the aim? Aim is to provide excellent service. Now, who can provide that service? Guys like me. Practical, born here, bred here, born in the cab industry here. I'm originally from India. Born here, bred here, drove a cab here, got a company here, became a citizen here, and I live here.
Commissioners?
Thank you.
Any questions
A
on
question.
any topic in the cab industry?
What's your current percentage of accessible or
So we don't go
alternative
into
fuel?
accessible cabs.
No accessible?
We don't have any.
And do you have any?
I would love to have them, but
alternative fuel vehicles at this point?
we were the first people to put in a hybrid, by the way. Now the hybrids are so small. Our poor guy, people used to go around. Then what do we need? We need a comfortable ride, a comfortable cab. Now that hybrid, that poor guy, they used to go around him and he was sitting there. They're too small, the hybrids. We haven't reached that stage. Okay, now to put a hybrid, you need a new car. It costs you $11,000 to $15,000 to convert that into a CNG. Is it affordable? A $40,000, $50,000 car? It's not yet affordable. It will be, maybe 5 years from now.
So right now it's zero. You have one hybrid, but no other alternative fuel
No.
vehicles.
And we don't intend putting one till there is an infrastructure. Even these hybrid cabs, or you could call them the ones which are all electric. All electric doesn't do more than 60, 70 miles. They'll say 150 miles. You got to have charging stations. A CNG car, if you get a trip from here to Chicago, or halfway your tank is down and you're somewhere in Brentwood, you got to come running to that gas station and wait in line to fill it up. These things are not yet practical. And once they get practical, you won't have to tell anyone. All the companies, everyone, they'll all convert. Like everyone has got. Now, what's a digital dispatch?
I think you've answered the commissioner's question at this point.
So one more minute, I'll tell you what's a digital dispatch. People say digital dispatch. It is nothing but a computer dispatch. From analog, when they turned to digital, and I was one of the first pioneers in this country when we got this digital thing manufactured.
Do any of the commissioners have any
named
questions?
So strengthen the existing company, sir, and nobody has ever succeeded, so don't listen to what people come and say. Go by what the gold medalists like me have done.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have a representative from Volunteer Taxi?
You guys, you obviously have a very tough decision to make today, and I absolutely do not envy you all. My name is Mike Rowan, and I represent Volunteer Taxi. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to thank you all for your initial investment in Volunteer Taxi a couple of months ago. Now, with that envision of giving them 30 permits, and Volunteer Taxi, they absolutely need 37 more permits, and that's what we're requesting. We're requesting 7 more permits at today's hearing. Now, what did that 30 permits give the board, the Transportation License Commission? It gives you all some data as to the performance of Volunteer Taxi, how they are performing in the marketplace. And Volunteer Taxi has performed very well. There hadn't been any complaints from any customers that have called regarding Volunteer Taxi to come out and pick them up. There haven't been any police department complaints against Volunteer Taxi, and there haven't been any business complaints regarding Volunteer Taxi as a result of them creating their establishments. Now, the question should be, what is Volunteer, given the opportunity that the board had gave Volunteer Taxi, what has Volunteer Taxi done for the board to show that their gratitude towards the board and their commitment to Nashville-Davidson County? One of the things that they did is Volunteer Taxi has the GPS system that you guys have heard a little bit about today. Now, the GPS system, what does the GPS system do? What the GPS system does, which I'm sure most of you all know, it acts like the GPS system in my car in a high-end Mercedes-Benz. What happens if you're a customer and you call the dispatcher can put in the information for the customer as to where the customer is and where the customer needs to go. So it actually goes to the dispatcher. That information is transmitted to the cab driver, and all the cab driver has to do is focus on where the customer is and where he needs to take his customer. It's typical GPS. It gives a satellite mapping of the locations of where the customer is and where the customer needs to go. Now, the other thing that they did is they implemented some of the standards regarding the focus group that the board, that the Metro Council paid for and that the board submitted. They've also installed the electronic credit card transactions in the headrest of the passenger seat of their vehicles. Now, what does that do? What does it do for the customer? What it does for the customer is it gives them convenience in paying their bill.
They don't have to give their credit card to the cab driver. Basically, what they do is they take their credit card or their debit card and they slide it through the transaction, which completes their sale. If it's a debit card, obviously they'd have to put in their PIN number, but it's a convenience. It's a convenience for the customer, is what it is, and it's also keeps good data, good records as to just IRS records regarding just what what the fares are that the cab drivers have picked up. Now, what they also did, what Volunteers also done to show the board their commitment to Davidson County is that they implemented the cameras that go inside the cab. They've already implemented in the 30 permits that they have, the 30 cabs they have, they've put these cameras into operation. Now, these cameras are absolutely crystal clear, and I believe that Mr. Fields or even some of the other cabs that we've heard about, these cab owners regarding these cameras, these in and out cameras, these are crystal clear cameras. Now, what does it do? It shows everything that takes place inside of a cab, and it shows everything that takes place outside of the cab. What does that mean? It means protection for the customer, for the consumer that's in the car. It shows everything that transpires, and God forbid if a cab driver was to be involved in an auto accident, it would absolutely show who was at fault. It will show whether he was playing with the radio, smoking a cigarette, or whatever he was doing. But Volunteer Taxi has done this for the board, and they've already implemented these cabs into their cabs. Now, what I'd like to do quickly is just draw y'all's attention to the economics. I know most of the board members that have sat here they've been here for quite some time. But some of the board members, like maybe Mr. McNally, this is his first indoctrination into the cab industry. And what I'd like to point out is that each one of these cab drivers, on an average, no disrespect to some of the testimony that we've heard today, each one of these guys pay an average of $225 a week just for the privilege to be able to drive a taxi. Not only that, we've also heard testimony today that they own their own car. They have to pay for the maintenance on their car. They pay for the oil changes, the tires, and everything else. And our own state's statistics, our own state here says that the average cab driver makes $17,400 a year. $17,400 a year after expenses are paid. That's below the poverty level, is what that is. That's almost insulting. These cab drivers here, they're part of our community, and these driver-owned cab companies, like Volunteer Cab, the company that I represent, they are trying to take care of themselves. That means that they are. If you own your own cab company, the theory is that you'll take care of yourselves. And where they pay $250 on average, Volunteer Taxi only charge their cab drivers $130, plus they offer them a benefits package. So they're the ones that are trying to lead the industry standards with technology and with their employees, which they own the company. So we're requesting 37 more permits. Any questions?
You spoke about the average that a lot of the taxi cab drivers are making with a lot of the companies.
Right.
I was wondering, has the quality of life and the income and the potential to make money increased for the drivers of Volunteer Taxi since we've actually implemented this, or have they struggled?
Yes, it has.
Have they struggled as individuals?
Yes, for these taxi cab drivers, it absolutely has. It's changed their lives. They're making in essence of our data shows that they're going to average around between $25,000 and $30,000 a year, which isn't a great living, but it's still better than $17,400 a year. And I have, maybe I have the luxury to represent the family regarding Jeffrey Powell, the man that was killed in the taxi cab on Medical Center Parkway. I represent that family, and I can tell you, although we have heard some statements today about very large insurance policies, I can tell you that his family is basically staring at a minimum coverage of $25,000. So if you're forced, if you're forced to purchase insurance from the cab company yourself, and you don't have any control of it, then basically you're stuck with that type of a policy limit, which may not be enough to take care of yourself or your family. So we respectfully request 37 more permits. Thank you.
Do you have the drivers lined up?
Yes, the drivers are lined up. One last thing that I would like to point out, and I'll be very, very quickly. Unfortunately, There have been some drivers that when volunteer did receive the 30 permits, not just with volunteer taxi, but there have been some of the other companies that believe that their commitment towards volunteer taxi, which may or may not even be true, those drivers have lost their job. And what volunteer taxi intends on doing with the 37, if they receive those, is to extend an olive branch out to those drivers that have lost their job and provide them with a job, where they will be owners of the company. They'll be owners of the company. They'll own their own destination. Any other questions?
So you're making a commitment that if you get any licenses, those would be offered to existing cab drivers who
have lost their
lost their jobs?
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Individuals that have asked to speak.
I'd like to personally thank Yellow Taxi for not requesting any permits and making our job slightly easier. But we have 9 individuals that have requested to speak. I understand that everyone really wants to have their opinion voiced, but we have to keep this kind of streamlined. The companies that put forth their best foot as far as for representation. So please, could you keep your comments to between 30 and 45 seconds in support of which particular entity that you want to support. We have 9 individuals. The first one up is Mike Kaiser. Hello, Mr. Kaiser.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for your time, and this is the gentleman that trained me to do this job of taxi driving for Nashville Cab, Moses. Thank you very much, 4 years ago, and I've been very successful at it. It's good when you work at it. It's not good when you don't. So what does everybody know that's a cab driver? If I'm not at the airport, what is it? It's slow downtown, right? So, I mean, I'm not a gauge, but I can tell you this much. You can make a good living doing this, and I'm thankful for Taxi USA for working for them, but do the math. $225 a week times 52 weeks, 205 cab drivers, that's 46,000 they draw in per week. They give us technology, they give us calls. That's why they got 100 cab drivers wanting to go to work for them. I mean, one day it's going to wind up being 1 or 2 cab companies in Nashville anyhow. They're going to be absorbed. They're all going to be consolidated. All this stuff about being a green city, I can understand that. It makes lots of sense to be a green city. But when you load the vehicle with people and luggage, you got to have a 6-cylinder. And they haven't got a hybrid 6-cylinder much yet, not unless you get into Lexus and so on. I can't get one of those. So, we need to move with technology, granted, but protect the drivers, because one of the most important things that we could all have is the number to our cab. The reason is we would have a future and not have to worry about like what happened to Jeffrey. We didn't mention Mr. Powell, not Mr. Powell, but Henry Moore. I go out there to that part of town where Henry Moore, I was there 5 hours before Henry Moore was killed over there at 10th and Garfield. Now, all I'm saying is there's no protection for the cab drivers as individuals, because there's nothing that's going to punish somebody for doing something like that. We pay our licks. We do our job. You got to have cab drivers that are willing to go to those areas, but nobody makes a cab driver go to those areas. Only the want to earn a living. That's what we need, is a little bit more control over that.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. Garth Pulaski. Mr. Pulaski, Garth. Yes. Skip over him. Last name is Tujo.
Yes.
On behalf. Okay. And again, keep comments to under 1 minute.
Okay. My name is Tagenya Tujo. I'm living in Nashville here, 11 years. I was driving checker, but without any reason, me and 5 of my friends, they fired me 3 months ago. The reason which they said to me, you are involuntary taxi so that you don't have to work with us. Actually, as you know, if you have checker permit, you can't drive any other cab. If you change it, you have to change your permit. Not only that, they don't have tangible evidence whether I invested involuntary or not. Simply they listening somebody talking to them and they fired me. I just want to see how, especially Checker company treat his dear drivers to these houses. I'm a family man. I got 2 kids. I got to pay my bills, everything. Now I don't have job, but sometimes I rent it from my friends and driving all over the companies right now. So I wanted to show that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Salisi Dejane. Yes.
I thank this commission for what you have done for the volunteer taxi, and we appreciate that. My name is Salisi Dejane, and I am here on behalf of Volunteer Taxi Cab. And we ask you kindly to give us 37 more taxi permits so that the volunteer taxi members who haven't been given the opportunity to drive for volunteer taxi can have an opportunity to drive for volunteer taxi. That will help the drivers, their families, their children, especially when we talk about the children, the family. The drivers can have an opportunity to sit down with their children, with their family in the evening, help them do their homework. But if they work for the company, they pay $225 per week. Can they make it with the slow time, with the economy like this? No, it can't be possible. But the only way they can escape is if you allow them 37 more permit. I appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Bailey.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for the wonderful job that you all are doing. And I'm actually office manager at Volunteer Taxi. I was given that position around the end of the month of December, right after I graduated from Lipscomb. Wasn't expecting the position, but these guys took a chance on me. And it's been great. Everybody that I talk to that calls the company, the first thing they say is that the drivers are courteous. They're not rude. They're not ugly. They continue to call back because they say that the drivers seem happy. Well, they're happy because they're not paying a whole lot out of pocket just to run a cab and because they own the company. And that's the one thing that all of us that work in the office appreciate. They're great guys to get to know. We love coming to work. I love coming to work in the evening, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, whenever I'm needed. I love coming to work. Even before I was office manager, I loved coming to work. It was that chance to help my family because my husband was the only income because I was a full-time student at Lipscomb. And the opportunity to come in from 11 to 7 and then go to class the next morning and still have time for the kids. It was that opportunity. And with those extra permits, their plan is to actually hire more dispatchers and hire more office people. So you're not just giving other drivers a chance to do something and the people that were fired giving them a job, but you're also giving other Nashvillians a job because they just want people to be able to work and to be able to support themselves. And I've really enjoyed working there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Dimbo.
I'm very grateful to get this opportunity to address VT-CAP for the respected commissioners. VT-CAP is the first owner-driver company which has been formed 2 years back. All other new applicants came after VT-CAP has started applying for the permit. And VT-CAP as you all know, have been granted 30 numbers in August 23rd. And with these 30 numbers, VTCAP has proved its efficiency and its competence with the latest technology, with the latest dispatch system, with the surveillance camera, and with the backside credit card machine, which is competent with our senior companies which have been on the road for the last long period. So the permit we have been given within this short time could not let us to satisfy our customers. Our customers are calling from every corner because we have a small number of cabs. We couldn't justify, we couldn't satisfy the need. On top of that, our members are 61, and we have applied for 61. The number we have been given is still below the minimum. So, considering all this situation and considering the competence which we have proved within the last 12 or 13 weeks, we need to apply for the additional 31 permits. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hassad Jaiya, maybe. Hassan, maybe this is Jefaya, maybe? I can't read this. 1 minute.
Yeah, my name is Hassan Jafara. Thank you for having me here. I just want to tell you something, what is going on first, and then I'm a Nashville Cab member, one of the Nashville Cab member, 10 Cab. And I used to work for Checker Cab Company. I have experience for 12 years in cab company. And they fired me just a couple of weeks ago for no reason. And they have a deep corruption in company. They fire a lot of drivers with no reason. And they have a group called board member they have in that company, which they fire the people. And if you give them the number, even from here, they're just gonna sell it. That number does not belong to them. And then they fire every driver and take the number and sell to those groups. I can show you one of the cab owner like me. He have 34 cab, which is a big company. If you can give to those people who need it. So I'm right now. I'm a father of 9 children. I don't have no job, and I need you guys to help us to give us 10 cab today, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Godwin Poema.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished members of the board. My name is Godwin Poema. I believe some of you here have seen me before and know me too. Now, we'll talk about the city as it is. Now, the taxi drivers are the liaison between the tourists and the city and you guys. But the taxi drivers are not having any security or protection. I would suggest and argue that next time that you have your board meeting scheduled, bring the police chief here, because there is tremendous harassment on the drivers.
We're just here to speak on the permits, so who do you...
Yeah, I know, I'm just making a suggestion.
This is about the permits.
Yeah, but this permit, I mean, what is the point? Having a potential when the potential is not being used. What is the point? Why have a permit when you will be harassed? Why are we going to be harassed just because a terrorist stopped us to be picked up? And then the police will turn around and issue a ticket because you are serving the visitor into the city? I mean, do we have permit just for the fun of it? No. We have the permit to serve our visitors.
So do you not support the issuance of any permits?
No. the permit should be given. I'm not opposing to that.
Who do you support the permits being given to?
Anybody who is qualified to be given the permit.
Well, thank you.
Another thing is, we talk about the insurance.
Thank you.
Last time, we spoke about insurance here. I mean, individual drivers have their own insurance. But for company to buy insurance and ask the drivers to pay for it, I mean, all these taxi companies did not register in Davidson County and or Nashville as an insurance agent. They register as transportation agent.
Mr. Pointman.
Yes, sir.
We have public hearings and we have forums where these things can be addressed. But for right now, we have to expedite this process to keep it only on the issuance of the permits.
Okay,
and
issue the permit to anybody who is qualified.
Thank you. Mohammed Hassan.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners, for the opportunity for me to address you guys here today. I stood here today to just kind of echo some sentiments that have been echoed before me a few minutes ago. And I'm standing here in support of Teen Cup. About 5 or 6 months ago, I've been on front line advocating for driver-owned companies, specifically Teen Cup. Just to kind of share brief stories with you guys, that imagine a man who has 5, 6, or 9 kids, like Hassan Jafar, who was just standing here, being told that he can no longer work for an existing company. This is a man that came to United States in 1994, worked in multiple cities, but decided to relocate to Nashville. And he invested a decade of his life here in United States, driving cabbie. But then all of a sudden, there's that sense of uncertainty that drives these guys. I have been involved with Teen Cup, and currently there are 58 drivers, and I know about 10 of them who has been kicked out of their job after they've been found that they're involved in organizing and requesting the company. So that is what's driving them. Is a matter of fairness. And as a professionals, some of you guys went to law school, some of you guys are in corporate business, that you have a dream to move up upstairs. So this man invested a decade or 2 decades of their life driving cabbie, and this is their ultimate dream, that founding this company. The other argument I would like to make is that for our city, Coordinates magazine just named Nashville one of the top 5 in the world to be visited. That means diversifying the market. We don't have a nice transportation speedy train other cities have. Convention Center is opening, the city is expanding. Forbes magazine just last week wrote an article calling Nashville a Nowville. So we have a lot of opportunity opening up. That means that opening more opportunities for the people who decided to live and work here and settle here. So I'm here in favor of making an argument to award the permits to 59 drivers of Teen Cup. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Commissioners, that concludes the public hearing portion, and I don't believe that anyone else has any presentations to make, Commissioners. So at this point, I'm going to open it up for our deliberations regarding the issuance of the permits or whatever you guys decide to do with this.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Go ahead. It's open for deliberation.
All right. Just of the director, are all the applications in order? Everything is, all the applications for additional permits, everything's been done?
They've been reviewed over, some of them since last November, and to my knowledge, everything is where it needs to be.
All the documentation's there. And then I guess my next question would be, are we restricted to 60?
At your August meeting, a motion was made to award 120 permits. 120 permits, and then decided 60 that were awarded in August, and then you said you'd come back in January to do another 60. So 60 are on the table. You're not restricted to that, however. We would have to probably we'd have to do some parliamentary procedure work with our legal team, but I suspect I want to remind you have the authority to issue the permits that operate taxi cabs in Nashville, Davidson County. And that number is based on what you decide today. So if you feel like there need to be more, you certainly have the right to, again, what we may ask you to, we'll either have to amend that motion or rescind the other half of the motion and take an additional action. But one way or the other, you certainly can.
Thank you.
I remember back in August when we decided on 120. It was an arbitrary number. We didn't know how many we would need. We knew
Well, it wasn't arbitrary.
Well, it wasn't arbitrary, no, but we came up with that number not knowing exactly what we would need or how many we would need, especially with the Music City Center opening. I think that the commission, although we're probably going to give out 60 permits today, I think that we need to consider increasing that number, perhaps at another meeting, decide how many more we would give with the Music City Center open, and really Nashville opening up as a destination. It's opening up to visitors, and I do believe, I agree with what the last speaker had said. Mohammed had said that Condé Nast did vote us just as in the top 5 places to visit in 2013, and I think we may need more cabs than we have right now, so it's something that I'd like to open for discussion.
Mr. Fields, in order to do that, would we later have the ability and the flexibility to call maybe another public hearing on that issue? Because right now, as I understand it, our issue is we have a motion that was decided at the August hearing. We are issuing 60. That's what we've committed to doing today. If we were to consider new permits, we would have to either make a request to sort of amend our previous decision, which is to implement the 60 today, or we would have to have another public hearing maybe to issue more permits maybe? Or would that be probably the best course? Or could we do that all today?
I'm going to defer back to our legal counsel, Ms. Castanis.
Because a lot, okay, go ahead.
I'll come around so y'all can hear me. I think you have a couple of different options. The motion that you adopted previously decided that you were going to give out 60 permits at this meeting in January. So if you wanted to change that, you certainly could, and there are parliamentary procedures, rescind and amend, that are available to you to do that. They would require a 2/3 majority to pass. Other alternatives, you were speaking about the ability to potentially award more permits. As was stated earlier, the code provides that if the commission finds that further or additional taxi cab service in the metropolitan government area is required by the public convenience and necessity, that is one of the findings that you make as a prerequisite to awarding certificates of convenience and necessity. So if you find that 60 is insufficient for the public convenience and necessity, then you can make an additional finding, rescind or amend your previous motion, or you can do one other thing, which is, as was mentioned, this is the annual public hearing that is required. You're required annually to consider this issue. You can also call special meetings to consider this issue at other times during the year.
Okay. That's what I was asking, is if we had the flexibility to call it a special meeting for this subject, if later we decided to do that.
Right, and I really think that we might wait until the Music City Center was about to open rather than doing it right now, but that we consider that as right before the Music City Center opens, and we will probably need them.
Okay. So, but we do have all those options on the table, so commissioners, if you would like to put forth any ideas that are within the rules that have been explained to us, you have that option, and anything is available. It's your decision. But at this point, we will have to entertain some motions towards actually doing something.
I'd like to deliberate just a little bit longer and make some comments so my fellow commissioners can hear what I'm thinking. And for those of you in the audience, none of us are really permitted to discuss it amongst our fellow commissioners. It all happens in public. So this is really your opportunity to hear what we're discussing. One of the missions really for the commission is public safety. And, Mr. Turner asked Mr. Fields a very good question, which was, do all of these applicants meet the requisite requirements to be issued a permit? And the answer is yes. So right off the bat, every applicant here today before us meets that standard. What we're then left with is deciding how many permits should be permitted and added to the current number of permits held. I'm of the mindset to think, why shouldn't all the permits requested be granted? Obviously, there are a number of applicants here who want permits. You as applicants have decided and had done the economic analysis to determine that it's worthwhile to seek to get a permit. If all of the permits were issued, I've heard from one of the applicants that he felt 750 permits were enough to sustain business for the taxi cab industry. Obviously, we've got about 1,250 permits. If we granted everyone today, there'd be 1,250 permits in the greater Nashville area. I'm assuming that would mean that many taxi drivers would not be able to sustain a living. So you should bear that in mind when you're seeking the number of permits. But I raise that as a point because you're asking the commission to decide for us to make the decision how many cabs can sustain the taxi cab industry, or how many permits. So we do have a really tough decision to make. And I would like to hear some comments from my fellow commissioners as to thoughts on that, as to why shouldn't we just grant all the permits that are being applied for?
Just a general answer to the question, I think it has the potential to dilute the earnings, and a lot of the additional discussion here has been about the individual and their earnings. And obviously, our role is more towards the public necessity for taxi cabs, not necessarily the earnings. But a lot of the discussion's been on the earnings. I think if we grant all those, it dilutes the earnings of the individual pretty significantly, and we may end up with taxi service that doesn't fit that definition of public necessity, or it's not provided in such a way that we're offering good service to the public. That's just my first thought, even though I kind of like the idea of just throwing it open.
Who polices the cabs that are out there? Isn't there some part of this commission, or we do, that looks at policing the cabs to make sure they're in compliance, or deals with complaints that occur?
Yes.
Well, how can we possibly handle doubling the number of cabs to start policing if we don't increase the force that does that?
Well, that is an issue. That gets into the public safety question that I raised earlier. But you're absolutely correct to make sure the city has the infrastructure to regulate and oversee the taxi cabs.
One other thing I saw that was provided to me to read was a study that was done about limousine services, taxi services for Nashville, and comparing other cities. And interestingly, the suggested number of permits or cabs mirrored very much what was said by one of the people who spoke about 750. So to me, I see there's two things. One is providing enough cabs in a safe environment, or safely to the public, providing cabs for visitors to our city who will appreciate being here, but also meeting our responsibility of this commission to, I don't know if I like the word oversee or police, but to regulate the cab business. I guess that's a better word I would use.
And also, commissioners, we have to keep in mind that this is almost a continuation completely a continuation of our August meeting, in which we've had the opportunity to hear taxi cab companies come out for and against, drivers for and against these additional permits. And a lot of the issues that you raised, although significant, were previously considered in our reaching the 120 number that we reached earlier. And so at this point, I do think it's imperative that we can keep our eye on the ball as far as for the distribution of what we have already determined to be in consideration of our role as commissioners and with the public safety. We've already considered those things. I would think that we considered those in reaching that 120 number. And I don't think that it was something that we reached without significant deliberation and contribution from all drivers, from everyone involved, from companies, from representatives, from elected officials. And it's something that I know that I personally did not take lightly when we made the decision on 120. I do think that ultimately at the end of the day, our responsibility is to the Transportation Licensing Commission and the public safety of the city of Nashville, even maybe more so than just, I mean, of course, in a perfect world, we'd be able to say, everybody go out there and do what you want. Everyone gets their own taxi. Every company that wants driver owned, everyone that existing taxi cab companies, everybody goes out there and gets what you want. But we do have a responsibility, and it's somewhat scary to venture into uncharted territories and just be that broad. I think that's something that we should tread lightly on moving forward. But today, I think that we need to keep focused on the task at hand, because we have a very tough decision, and we're going to have to split the baby somehow, or not, or give 60 to one company. I don't know, whatever you guys decide to do, but just make sure that it's well-founded moving forward and considers things like the public safety and the city of Nashville.
I definitely understand your comments, and the reason for my comments wasn't purely academic, the question, but it was to trigger this exact discussion we're having before everyone, openly, so it can be heard. I think we should consider issuing more than 60 today. I see no reason, after hearing from Ms. Costonis, that we could not legally decide to rescind and amend and issue additional permits beyond the 60 that we agreed to in August of 2012. So those are my thoughts.
I would also like to go back to the August 2012 meeting when we talked about how many, and we made the decision about how many licenses to issue. At that time, we did talk about
Mr. Whalen presented 180, I believe.
180. Yes, you did. 180. But we did talk about the Music City Center a lot that day, but it was so distant at that point. It was so far away. It was a year to come, and I think we talked about holding back a little bit because of that.
Absolutely.
Things have changed since then. Also, I think our city has changed since then. Even since the study was done, our city has changed, and as one of our taxi cab owner companies came out here and was talking, I believe it was Taxi USA, and made a good point, talked about that 750 permits, which also was in the study. 750 permits would probably make better sense, but not only that, but that now residents of Nashville are using cabs more, where we keep focusing on tourism, we keep focusing on the visitors that come in, but the residents, and now with all of the new resident buildings being built downtown. And I know I live in one of them, and sometimes I don't want to take my car out to just go down, so it's easier to get a cab. So these are things that we need to take into consideration that weren't that we didn't look at as closely at that time. I just think that Nashville has changed a little bit, so we need to look at that.
I am in complete agreement, and the floor is open for such deliberations. Although one of the most telling things that I personally did hear today was from a representative of Volunteer Taxi that made a statement that taxi drivers in this city and across the state are averaging about $17,000 a year in annual income. If that were to be the case, to infuse the market with such a huge number of taxis, that does increase the competition. But I mean, that's somewhat scary to me. And I think that was something that we did consider previously. And it's certainly something that we could address at a later date. I don't necessarily, I mean, that's my position, but at the end of the day, I don't have a vote. I can't make the motions. If you guys want to vote to issue out the permits, I just think that it's something that we did thoroughly consider. And we are not necessarily just dealing with these, pieces of paper that are called permits. These permits encompass people's lives. And there are people's lives. I mean, we're talking about the issuance of new permits. Well, as of right now, we have 645 current permits that aren't making a lot of money. And so I don't know. And it's something to be, and I'm just saying that it's something that I don't take lightly, that I do consider before we just say, hey, let's freely distribute more. And so I'd just like for you guys to consider that in your motions. But
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that, because I think it's the same company that employs these drivers that are making $16,000 a year that stood here and told us that they turn away business because they don't have enough drivers and enough cabs. So I'm not understanding that. If there are not enough cabs and you have these drivers that are not making more than $16,000 a year, it doesn't make sense to me. The numbers just don't make sense. So
I guess that would probably be a logistical issue with taxis, though, in the business structure, most likely with part-time. Yeah, I mean, that's stats are what they are.
Right.
There are lies, damn lies, and statistics. Sometimes they read what you want them to read.
Right. So I don't know if I agree with that $16,000 figure.
I don't have any reason not to.
If maybe they're part-time drivers and they're working only 20 hours a week, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to make.
Well, I do agree, Mr. Winfrey, that public necessity and public need is certainly a prime consideration as to the number of permits for the city of Nashville. I still think that we could award more than 60, especially considering the study that was done last year. That we certainly, the taxi industry could certainly sustain, and the public need would be met with an additional granting of permits.
I thought the study said 60. Was it 60 or 80? Was the recommendation
180 was more.
No.
Was what?
The study that we saw in August recommended. We went above the study recommendation in August.
It was in the 80s.
Yes, it was 80, because I remember that. I think it's something of that nature, because I know that I made the motion. I think the 120 was probably settled because I made the motion on the 60, and I believe that Mr. Whalen made the motion on 180, and I guess the positions wound up being at 120 or so, but that study actually said that the city could sustain about 60 more permits, and we went to 120 initially. So that's all I was saying, is that what we don't want to do is to get here today and necessarily be wowed by the wonderful presentations that we've seen when we did consider a lot of these issues in August, which is why we settled on the number that we did. And that number was reached for a reason and after deliberation.
Well, also, I think if we were to increase the number, say, to 105 today, adding 40 more, that the folks who have applied for permits would want to perhaps change the requested numbers. And we really haven't given them an opportunity to reflect on it if we were to go up in the number of permits that we were offering today.
I mean, even if we went up, there's no way we could meet the permits that.
Right.
So it really wouldn't make a difference. I'm just. I don't have a vote. I don't have a motion, but I am extremely cautious. And I do recall the August meeting in which we did heavily deliberate that, and I do recall that initial study that said 60, and we doubled that. And that was important to me.
I would remind you that the code requires a minimum of 20 to any new company. We would have to do a minimum of 20. Any existing company, you can do 1, you can do 60, you can do 105, but you'd have to, a minimum is to allow a company to begin business would be 20.
All right, I'll take a shot at this.
Brave man.
I would like to move that we rescind and amend the August action that provided for an additional 60 permits to be granted in the future. And so rescinding that and amending it to allocate 105 additional permits, actually 110 permits. And if you'd like, I'll go ahead and tell you how I would allocate them, or if we want to do that separately.
We're going to have to do that separately.
I second that motion.
Motion moved and seconded to rescind the 60 and replace that with 110 permits issued for the January meeting. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now, we'd like to deliberate on some of the concerns that we have regarding the particular taxi cab companies. Or did you want to go ahead and? Because I think that this is a little bit of a different issue. And we're definitely going to have some concerns about this, particularly considering that we have to give for new companies that we would issue permits to 20. It's going to be a little bit of a math game if you're going to split this up. There are some concerns that if we go to existing companies that we don't have those restraints and restrictions, and there's definitely a benefit in a lot of ways to going with existing companies as well as going with newer companies that I think that, I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say. I think I made the statement that I appreciated volunteer taxi being the first at the table, which was definitely a consideration in why we issued them permits back in August, or I believe I made that motion for that. But I've heard nothing but wonderful things about volunteer taxi since then, and I see no reason to limit volunteer taxi to that initial distribution. And I've heard nothing but good things about volunteer taxi as well. And so I just wanted to say that on the record that I personally think that Volunteer has done a really good job and has infused some things that have been really good for the market. But I don't have a vote. Any other reasons to support any other companies? I mean, at the same time, we issue permits to Taxi USA for very good reasons, for Checker for very good reasons, being that they had an existing source of business, and then we were provided. They had the ability to service the clients and a good track record. All of those are considerations that I want to make sure that we're considering when you make these motions on dividing up this pie one way or the other. And with the same success, at the same time, with the same success that we had with volunteer taxi, we could have that same success with green cab, black cab, blue cab, red cab, or whatever cab that wants to apply.
Well,
so keep those in mind.
I believe that we should issue, and I'm open to suggestions on how many, but I believe that we should issue some permits to 10 cab today.
And you know that would be a minimum of 20.
I'm open to the number.
I'll make a motion if anybody's willing to follow along. I will say that I'm going to follow it up with a motion for a bonus for accessible for any of the companies that are granted permits or for any of the companies that already have permits, so that there's a bonus for accessible taxis. So my my motion is to grant 35 to Green Cab and 35 to Quick Cab, 35 to 10 Cab, and 5 to Volunteer.
What? Say that one more time.
It's 35 to green, quick, 10 cab, and additional 5 to volunteer. All 4 of those entities would then have 35 permits.
We have a motion on the floor.
I second it.
Motion and a second. I think maybe we should do. Should we do an individual vote?
That's
Or all
fine
those
with
in-
me.
Yeah.
Was that a motion that you
Yes,
made?
that
or
was, it
just
was a motion and a second. So, I mean, all those in favor, we'll just go to the general. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Abstentions? Motion does not pass.
I'd like to make a motion. I'm just going to change it slightly from where we were. I'd like to make a motion that we award 35 to green cab, 25 to quick cab, 35 to 10 cab.
Hold on. Let's pause that for a second.
Okay.
I can vote in situations just like that. In situations where in order to break that tie on that, because we had 2 up, 2 down, and an abstention.
I suppose
Okay.
you could abstain and then it would still be tied.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
And I vote no.
Okay.
So, officially for the record, that motion was no. All right, I'm sorry.
That's all
Your
right.
motion?
My motion is to award 35 to green cab, 25 to quick cab, 35 to 10 cab, and 15 to volunteer.
One more time.
35 green cab, 25 quick cab, 35 10 cab, and 15 volunteer.
We have a motion on the floor. We have no second.
I'll second.
Well, now we have a second to that motion. Thanks for the delay. We have a second to that motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We have the distribution. Mr. Just for my records, can you say that one more time?
35 green cab,
Yeah.
25 quick cab, 35 10 cab, and 15 volunteer. If my math but from public schools is correct, that's 110.
As
All right.
a fellow public school graduate, it is one.
That is 110.
If I might add, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is make sure the color schemes are all approvable, and I think they are. I also want to make sure that we put a time limit in terms of it's a 90-day time limit or 120-day time limit rather than a year. And from a staff standpoint, we just want to make sure that we get them on quickly. And we didn't have any problem volunteering. I wouldn't anticipate any problem with any of the meetings.
Before we do that, could I do my follow-up motion on the accessible? Or how do you want to do this? Actually, Chair, how do you want to do this?
Make your motion.
All right. For the need for the accessible and ADA, and if there is a demand for additional cabs, I would move that it, for the existing permits and the ones just granted, that, and this is on the current permits, not the accessibles that exist, that there be a 10% bonus for adding accessible cabs. And an example would be,
I don't understand what you're talking about.
well, here's the example. United Cab has 70. Okay, they asked for 60 additional cabs. Okay, but I'm saying if they have 70, they can get an additional 10% if those 10% are ADA accessible.
So that's for every company that has permits.
So
And that is if there's true demand and people want it, and then they can add it with ADA cabs.
So would those I'm sorry.
Okay.
Would those companies then come back before the board at a later date and say, I've got an ADA cab ready to go, I need a permit?
And it's been done in the past, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea in the future, but I like it.
If I remember correctly, I think each one who came and asked for permits said that they would put up a minimum of 10 ADA cabs, that they would, that's what they were going to do anyway, so.
And I'm thinking it's also for the existing permit holders. If they were to add cabs, they could add ADA accessible.
I mean, we have a motion on the floor.
See? Just throwing it out there. Open discussion, right?
Well, it hasn't been seconded, so we are in open discussion at this point. There was no second on the motion. So if you'd like to renew that motion, or someone.
Well, can I comment on the motion before we, since there's been no second?
We can just renew it. The motion dies.
Okay.
So, now you can come.
I don't need to comment.
As long as it's dead. Well, I'll say that there were companies that came to us with an infrastructure already in place with ADA accessibility, and if that were a primary concern, then we could have easily considered that in awarding those type of companies
That wouldn't
permits.
that wouldn't have affected the existing permit allocation.
It wouldn't have affected the number, but it could have affected who we gave those.
Right, but it
to.
wouldn't have affected the companies that already have permits.
So what you're trying to do is encourage companies that already have permits to get some ADA compliant ones.
That's correct.
My comment is, I think that we do have a good process in place where we meet once a year and have a regularly scheduled meeting. So a company like, and I'll take the first one on the list just as an example, American Music City can come in here and say, I want 10 permits and I've pledged that all 10 will be ADA compliant. And that would be a substantial reason for us to consider granting them 10 permits.
Absolutely. I know that we've heard today that I believe it was Taxi USA, maybe, that had an infrastructure in place for ADA accessible taxis.
There's two companies that have 10%. Taxi USA and
Checker.
And Yellow, actually.
I'm sorry, Yellow.
But I think that they also made a promise as well that they would do whatever we wanted to on that fleet, whether it be green, whether it be ADA accessible. They
Right, but
they
weren't allocated any additional cabs.
But we had the opportunity to do so, and I think that's what Sal is saying, is that we had a mechanism in place that seemingly has worked. And had that been a concern, then they could have presented that, and that's something that we could have deliberated in our divide of that 110. I'm not necessarily, I don't have a vote, but I'm not necessarily in favor of just giving bonuses for people doing that at this point. That should have been more of a selling point on their part when they came up today.
Yeah, I understand your point and your position.
So, but
I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, but you have the right to make. The motion died. You have the right to renew it, clean it up. Something you think might be acceptable.
I'm done with it.
Any other motions?
Billy needs one.
I just wanted to make certain that we had a timeline on how quickly they needed to come online.
Is that something we need to make in form of a motion?
I think you can direct staff to require a certain time period. But if you want to, if you want in other words, I would say a minimum 90 days. There are the issues of actually buying the vehicles, getting the cars equipped, getting them painted, and getting them online. It's not something they're just going to. Now, some of them are going to be able to do that today and tomorrow. I know, I've heard from them, and I believe you. But it will take a while. So I think 90 days or 120 days, something like that, would be a reasonable time. And plus, it would also meet our guidelines on getting to the Music City Center. We don't want to. If part of what we're trying to do is be ready for that, then let's get them online.
Okay.
No more than 120 days.
Okay.
Is that a motion? You make the motion.
If you need it.
Yeah, he wants it in the motion.
He wants it in motion form.
No more than 120 days.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion 120 days. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Like your first meeting.
What I just read. You guys scare me. I'm just gonna say it. I'm sitting here.
Welcome to the commission.
I see you. You guys, we have to
Yes.
Do a good job. Do a good job.
Didn't quite work, did it?
I know you will. You're welcome.
Vacating horse-drawn carriage rule number 5. Mr. Fields, would you like to briefly discuss?
Rule number 5 of the horse-drawn carriage rule involves a solicitation. I'll read it. Any representative of a horse-drawn carriage company is prohibited from soliciting business in a manner inside the Interstate 40, Interstate 24, Interstate 65 loop, except that a driver or carriage company owner may respond to requests from the public while the carriage is parked at a carriage stand. Staff has issues with the broadness of the language of this particular ordinance, this particular rule that we vacated. We'll revisit it at a later date.
Okay, Mr. Fields. We have 3 requests to speak on Rule 5. Let's start with Elizabeth Lucky. Hello.
Hello. My name's Elizabeth Lucky, and I work for Hat Creek Carriage. And I just want to speak against, by vacating, you mean changing or doing away with that? I think it's the drivers. I think the driver should be the only one who should be able to solicit the carriage ride. And in fact, I don't know if I want anyone else walking around the city representing me and trying to sell my product. So I think we're all individual, and we all should be able to, we all have the ability to solicit our own rides. So, as the driver only. And I guess that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lucky. Sam Roberts.
My name is Sam Roberts. I'm the owner of Hat Creek Carriages. This Rule 5 is very important. I don't think any of you remember back in 2008 when this rule finally got into effect. I don't believe any of you was on the board. I don't think Mr. Fields here was the director at the time. What occurred is 2 carriage companies, Sugar Creek and Lee Cagle Company, started soliciting by hiring street people to solicit all up and down Broadway, 2nd Avenue. It became absolutely ridiculous. The police wound up having to get involved, making arrests for everything from disorderly conduct to intoxications to assault and batteries to citations even. The police finally did send a representative out to assist us to help get this rule in effect because of the violence. A representative of the police department came to the meeting, advised what violence was occurring and that it needed to stop and that an amendment needed to be brought forth. And it was, and the violence stopped. There hadn't been any. I have a question. I don't know if anybody can answer it or not. Who wanted to bring this amendment forward?
I'll speak when it's appropriate time at the hearing.
Yeah. What's that?
Would you like me to speak now, or would you like me to speak during when the hearing is complete?
Oh, you can speak now. Yeah.
The real issue here is the legality of this particular ordinance as it relates to the law. If you were to read this on the face of it, the way I see it, and as the director I have to enforce it, is that there is no solicitation. Drivers aren't talking to people on the sidewalks. You can't hand a brochure out. I understand the issue. I'm aware of what went on then. by the same token, I want to come back and revisit it, but as it stands today, I don't think I can enforce, I'm not sure it's legal for me to enforce this.
I see. So you're saying there's legalities about it of enforcement?
Well, I think it's, there's very specific freedom of speech issues that are there as part of it. I think what we're going to need to do is revisit it along with the companies to talk about why and how we operate in the downtown area. Because I already have some other, well, it's a different issue, but I think there's some very specific issues that make this, that I shouldn't enforce it because I'm infringing on somebody's right in terms of how they do business.
Well, okay. Then let me say this. As long as we don't eliminate this rule and it goes back to the 2008 violence that we had down here, we don't want that.
Yeah.
We're there to give a professional and safe ride to tourists in the city. That's all we ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Clark.
My name is Matthew Clark. I'm a driver for Hat Creek Carriage Company, and I am 101% against this. Why does it need to be that anybody other than a carriage driver is trying to solicit someone to get on the carriage? Why is it not that a carriage driver, and I can promise you from second to third, there's enough spots for 6 carriages. When people start at third and come down to second, by the time they get to second, they're asked 6 different times if they want to take a carriage ride. If we eliminate this rule, we've got so many problems with the carriages. This is going to just heap coals right on the fire. So I don't understand why we would even consider changing this rule. And if it is a freedom of speech, Joe Blow has no business trying to get someone on the carriage. That should be the carriage driver's responsibility only. And if we do eliminate this and we revisit it, it's going to be a while before we can revisit it. So I'm 100% against changing this rule at all. Let it be the carriage driver's responsibility only. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no more requests to speak at the public hearing, but commissioners, we definitely will open the floor up for discussions or motions.
Well, I'll make a motion. I move that the commission vacate horse-drawn carriage rule number 5 so that the staff can recommend a new rule to meet, to address the concerns that Metro Legal and the staff have raised to the commission about the current state of Rule 5.
I second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes to vacate number 5.
And a quick question, we can get the replacement rule back on
You could hear it at the next meeting.
at the next meeting? Okay.
Do we need to make a motion on the timing?
No, they just, you would throw it on the calendar. All right, now we're moving to the records per your agenda, item number 8, renewing record license company request. Those requests are encompassed in addendum 1. Commissioners.
Is this discussion or motion time?
Yeah, either or.
I make a motion that we approve all the licenses that are grouped together in this addendum as one single unit, and we'll speak for all of those companies that are listed.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
Abstain. Motion passes. We have renewing record driver permit requests, and those requests are encompassed in addendum 2. Commissioners, again, open for discussion, deliberation, or motions.
I'll make a motion. The staff has informed us that these renewing record driver permit requests meet the requirements, and therefore I move that we grant the driver permit requests that are listed on addendum 2.
We have a motion on the floor.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Next, we have a new record company license, Fast Towing. Mr. Fields?
The Fast Towing is a new company. Ordinance requires that the commission is to approve all new companies and drivers. We asked Fast Towing to come. We have no issues with their permit. They have done what they needed to do, and all of their vehicles have been inspected.
Is there a representative from Fast Towing here? At all? Step forward. Commissioners, if you have any questions.
What was the reason you didn't approve of this in your office?
Because he's a new record company, and because of that, we need your approval rather than mine.
Any questions, motions, deliberations? All are available, commissioners.
I'm just happy. My name is Jawad for Fast Towing. They start in this 3-4 months. And just happy. Everybody just helped me. Thank you.
There's no disciplinary background, is there? No. I move approval.
We have a motion on the floor.
A second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And go.
We have a new record driver permit request, and those requests are encompassed in addendum 3. Mr. Fields?
All of them in an order. There are 2 that I think you will need to visit with that I would not be able to approve. I'd ask you to approve all but number 6 and number 16. Mr. Elliott, Mr. Plummer, I think they're here. They'll speak.
So do we have any motions?
Yeah, I make a motion.
Yes.
I make a motion that the commission approve the new record driver permit request for those drivers listed on addendum 3, 1 through 20, except listed number 6 and 16, so they can be considered in a separate motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Andrew Elliott? Mr. Fields?
Mr. Elliott has had some issues in the past, but currently in 2012, there was an issue of theft of property. We have been unable to determine the outcome of that, so we felt like you probably need to be here to explain what happened.
I made a trade with a guy for a motor for a boat. It ended up being stolen. It's still going to court. There's nothing's happened with it. That's why I didn't write it down. I mean, I really don't know what else to say about it.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
I said I really don't know what else to say about it.
No, I understand. I don't understand the situation.
I made a trade with a guy for a motor for a boat, and it ended up being stolen.
What ended up being stolen?
The motor that he gave me ended up being stolen, and I tried to sell it a few weeks later and ended up being arrested for it. It's still going to court. There's nothing that's been dispositioned on it. So, I mean, I don't really know.
So you took ownership of stolen property
Yes,
is what
ma'am.
happened? Oh, okay, I understand.
I didn't know it at the time.
Okay.
But that was what the issue was.
Mr. Elliott, it's a felony charge?
Currently.
And it was bound over to the grand jury?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I guess it has. I don't know. I don't know how the court system here works.
You've been to court once on it?
Twice, I believe.
Okay. You said you received the motor from someone else.
Yes.
Do you know where the motor was stolen from?
I believe it was stolen from the TVA steam plant in Gallatin.
Okay. When you received it, did it still have the stickers from the TVA on it?
No. The serial number sticker was still on it. And that was it.
How did you go about selling it to this other person?
Craigslist. I just listed an ad. I had bought another boat in Knoxville a couple weeks prior, and the motor on that one was blown, but it was a much larger motor. So I was going to sell the small one so that I could replace the one that was blown on the big boat. And when I listed it, I went and met with a guy, and a bunch of officers showed up, and that was that.
From what I've seen on the Davidson County criminal records, your case was bound over from General Sessions Court to the grand jury.
Okay.
And it's awaiting indictment in criminal court.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want to say about it?
I was actually not even in town the day that happened. I was in Mont Eagle, but I wasn't able to get the videotapes from the gas station that I went into, and nobody ever called to verify anything, and the only people I was down there with was my mom, so they said that wasn't a very good alibi.
Commissioners? That's the warrant.
Do we have a representative from Bailey?
Is there a representative?
Second page just shows where he, this just shows where it was bound to the grand jury. It's my work on the criminal defense.
Just as a discussion point from my end, I would really like to see the outcome of this, because it is a felony before we make a decision, one way or the other.
You have that liberty. You also can make a motion.
I like your style.
It'd also be nice to have a representative from Bailey's here.
We have the owner of Bailey's here, but
The only reason I wrote that on there is because I spoke with him the day prior to, and that was the only company that I knew to write on there. There's another guy that I was, talking with as well, rescue professionals, who possibly had a job open for me too, but I haven't physically been hired by anybody because I can't get a job anywhere without the, permit. Oh, also, at the time that charge happened, I had only been in the state like a week and a half. When the trade happened, I didn't know anybody here. I had just moved up here from down south. So, I don't know if that helps anything or hurts anything or whatever, but I had just moved here from Florida like a week before that was stolen. So I didn't even know the guy that I traded with or anything. It was just, we met, we were talking, we made a trade, and then got arrested a couple weeks later.
Have you ever had a record driver permit before?
I've never been in a city where I've needed to have one.
You've worked at that before?
Excuse me?
You've worked as a record driver before?
Yes, sir, in Florida. Tona Beach doesn't require anything like that.
Had any trouble down there?
What do you mean, like criminally?
No, with your work.
Oh, no.
Got a criminal record in Florida?
Long time ago, when I was a kid.
For what?
Same stuff. Stole a car.
Were you a juvenile at the time?
It was right after my 18th birthday. 29 now, that's the last trouble I've been in. It's been over 11 years. And, that's why I was so pushed on this one, because it's been so long since I have been in any trouble, and I was so young that most places don't really hold that against me so much. And then just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person.
Thank you.
commissioners? Can't do anything without a motion.
I make a motion that we deny the record driver permit for Andrew Elliott.
We have a motion. We have a motion on the floor for denial. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion for denial, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion for denial passes. Floyd Plummer. Mr. Fields?
Mr. Plummer applied to be a record driver. When he filled out his application, he failed to list a particular drug charge. The inspector did not feel comfortable issuing it and wanted to let y'all review the application.
Any questions from commissioners or discussions, deliberations? All are available.
When was that, 1998?
Is it 1998 when you were arrested of the possession charge?
Yes, sir.
Okay, was it simple possession?
Yes, sir.
What was it, drugs?
Marijuana.
How much?
Less than a quarter, like
Where did it occur?
small amount. I want to say downtown Nashville, but I'm not sure of the offense. I'm not sure which one.
What I see here is a 30-day sentence that was suspended, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Paid a $100 fine?
Yes, sir.
Any trouble since then?
No, sir.
Test positive or negative today if you took a drug test?
No.
Good. Thanks. But there may be other questions.
Commissioners?
Is there a representative of Topro here?
Yes, sir.
You want to speak on his behalf?
I won't speak on his behalf, but if you guys grant him the record permit, we are interested in hiring him.
I recently passed a drug test. How long ago? A week?
2 weeks ago.
A week ago, 2 weeks ago.
I make a motion to give him a permit.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
That easy. Okay, now we have non-consent towing license request, Music City Towing. Mr. Fields? Representative, Music City. Music City.
In your November meeting, Music City Towing had made application for a non-consent towing license. It was denied that you granted. They actually made 2 applications. They had an application for a general record and non-consent. You approved the general and denied the non-consent. They reapplied. The rules and the ordinance nor the rules speak to when somebody can reapply. So we thought it appropriate under the existing rules to bring them back and present them back to you for consideration.
Commissioners?
Do they meet all the requirements?
If they meet the requirements under the ordinance. The issue, there were some questions about policy, but in terms of the ordinance and the rules, I believe they meet.
I make a motion then that we grant the non-consent towing license request to Music City Towing.
I second that motion.
Motion and second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
I abstain because I was not part of this group in August or anything, so otherwise.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And you had a great presentation, I bet, over there.
Okay, item number 9 on the agenda is the taxi cab driver permit request of Aleki Korma. Mr. Fields?
Yes. Mr. Froman applied. He had been an existing driver. He applied after the deadline. When he applied after the deadline of September 30th, we basically had to begin the process again. And as we began the process, we found a new charge related to a sex issue, a sex crime that you made it very clear on drugs, violence, and that you'd like to see it, so we've asked him to reappear to talk. Those charges are, he has not been convicted. They are pending. They're on appeal. I'm sorry, there's been a conviction, but it's on appeal to the criminal, the Court of Criminal Appeals.
Commissioners?
Mr. Corman, when I read through this, I understand that this charge against you and then the conviction occurred from a domestic assault with your now ex-wife?
It was about I was going through the divorce process with my ex-wife, and what happened was, I was going through divorce with my ex-wife, and I took her to, and then before the convention came to occur, and then she put an allegation on me with my own daughter. That's the only way she can get rid of me, to get the other man to put you in the house. So I knew that was coming, but being there, I don't understand the culture all that much. And I went and got my lawyer. At the same time, the appeal is going on right now, and I'm struggling how to pay my lawyer. So I decided that to come back to the capital to do, since my appeal is going on, so I can fire her and pay my lawyer, because the flea market, I'm doing it on the fairground. It's a lot of competition. I can't make no money, and I got a daughter that who was Libya. She was born February 29. Her birthday is coming, and she's going to the school, and they need my help. And I got 16-year-old boy, Sean, who...
Is this out of Rutherford County?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you go to trial or did you plead guilty on the charge?
I never plead guilty. They just put the appeals on. So,
but you've been convicted, and now you're on appeal to a higher court.
Yeah, when they convicted me, they look at it that the judge, if he asked my lawyer, it is appeal is going on, and I think maybe you know it, that God Dawson, he said that he just looked like you. God Dawson, that he said that I'm gonna write a letter and give to you, and you look for a job. Maybe the appeal will take about 2 or 3, 4 months, but I need my money.
But did you go to trial or did you plead guilty to the charge of sexual battery?
The sexual battery, it was not. I was not have. Let me explain to you what happened. During the civil war in my country, Liberia, my mother passed away. Okay, I was working for the American airline in Los Angeles. I was pushing the plane like this. Okay, and then I met this woman here, where I used to, the American people who brought me. So I met her, and we got in love. But I make her to understand I'm a refugee. But I'm not here for me to give you money for you to give me a green card. I came here as a political asylum. It's the American people brought me. At that time, in Liberia, I think you're familiar with Charles Taylor. It was New York Times. I got the paper with me here. I was driving for this New York Times, and I helped the man. And when I walked from Liberia, like you walk from here to go to Memphis, I walked from Liberia, I went to different country. I have 3 kids, and I took them over there. The man saw me in Abidjan, with a French-speaking country. He said, "Oh, Kroma, that's you?" I said, "Yeah." And because of my goodness, I started working for the man. So the man helped me. He and his wife, as a New York Times, they brought me this country here. So now my mother passed away. To make it very short for you, I went and got my niece in Africa. So when I brought her here, I was driving the taxi that they call 220 United. So every time I go to work, I call the school boy, "Where's my daughter?" My daughter is not home. So it was too much of an argument. So my wife, she behind me that we should be separate. I said, "Why we have to be separate? I took you to Africa, I show you my people. Why you want to treat me like this? And we had kids. Why you never tell me like this?" While we were doing that,
I never knew that she was serious. She called her brother there. They came, they kicked me out. So we went back to the court. The judge said I should have a visitation on my case. So every time we have a neutral ground to the police station, if she don't get my case, I will go call the police. They will escort me. Oh, I make it worse. Every time they escort me, her boyfriend in the house. So I was doing that. She was talking to my niece. She talked to, my daughter. She tell my daughter will move on her. I said, look, if my daughter go with you, I know taxi work, it took about 12 hours to make the money. I got people in Africa, they're in refugee camp right now. But the way you treat me is not good. And now, after all that, we were speaking Mandingo. I swear to God, we were speaking my language. It is not something that sexy, they find the...
Mr. McNally, is this answering your question?
No.
I didn't answer the question?
Do you remember what the question was?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know Mr. Guy Dotson represented you in
Yes.
Rutherford County.
Yeah.
Did you have a trial in front of a jury?
I have a trial in front of the jury.
Right, and they found adverse to your position?
Yeah, they found me
guilty.
No, they found me 5 counts, and the 5 counts they dismissed.
Okay.
So they found me 1, and Mr. God Dawson said there's no magnitude in that fine, there's no record. So Mr. Dawson turned around and filed an appeal.
Yeah, and now you're on appeal.
So I'm on the appeal right now. It's supposed to be like 2 or 3 months from now, but God Dawson is so expensive. He telling me to bring him money, and I'm like,
it's on appeal.
Yeah,
I'm on appeal.
That's fine. Thank you.
What was the charge that they found you guilty on?
She said we were driving the car. When we were driving the car, I tested her leg.
The charge in the indictment was sexual battery.
Yeah, they said I tested her leg. So my wife told her to say like that, so I can't have a visitation with her.
That was the question.
That was, oh, I'm sorry.
It's on appeal.
Well. And second to that, I've been driving United Taxi for 4 years without no complaint.
Do we have a representative from United here?
Yeah, I brought in here. That's why I was just going around. They was sitting out here, Mr. Brown.
But are they here to speak on your behalf right now?
Yeah, they were here. They were here, but I just called him. He said, oh, we're coming. They the one told me they have to be here. I'm going to be here about 1:30.
Commissioners, we know what's on the table. So we will certainly entertain motions or further deliberations.
I make a motion. It is difficult to discern the extent of the details of the conviction, but it's not really, in my opinion, our role to try to read between the lines. Therefore, I make a motion that we deny the application for the driver permit.
We have a motion on the floor for denial. Do we have a second of the motion for denial?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion for denial passes. Item number 10. Item number 10. A horse-drawn carriages update. Mr. Fields.
At the November meeting, one of the issues, there's an ongoing issue between several of the drivers and 2 companies in particular. And I had hoped, and we had a meeting to try to work out a solution. You asked me to report back in January of had we reached a solution, and unfortunately, I can tell you we have not reached a solution. Again, we had a very productive meeting, I thought, with the attorneys, and again, at that point, I've not had a solution brought forward or suggestions that where there's agreement. So my suggestion is that we bring it back to the commission in February. Again, most of these have things that the staff can't speak to because we didn't see it. And we'd basically give them time to make the presentations to you of what they want to say happened among the companies.
You don't need a motion to put that on the February agenda, do you?
You just asked me to report back.
Okay. I see
And
some.
I will continue to try to resolve it if there's a way. There's still time, but if not, I would plan on bringing it to you at that meeting.
I see representatives from Hat Creek back there. I don't know if you wanted to speak or was that sufficient?
No, I think Mr. Fields summarized what's been going on.
There is no motion necessary on this one, so unless someone has a specific need to put something in the record, we can let that one go and discuss any other business that may be before the commission. Seeing that there is no other business before the commission and we are through the agenda, I will entertain any other motions.
I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second of the adjournment motion? All those in favor?